Welcome back, guys. Thanks for sticking around. We're jumping over the pond to a little bit of North America now. I'm Dolson for set number 3 of the day. Joining me now, same as the cast, now Gormizer joining me on the desk for our third set, of course. New team, old team, fun matchup to look at. One team, though, notably in the shadows. Of course, it's Sanguine versus Shadows here in match number 3, set number 3. But Shadows is a team that's kind of a weird conglomeration of, some ex-PPL players. We had some minor leagues shift up, some PPL shift down, and honestly, on paper, a lot of people are thinking the Shadows could be the team to beat.
And that's the thing I'm most interested to see, right? This is going to be a really, really good heat check for them to figure out where they are. It is worth noting, though, Sanguine, if I remember correctly, they don't have Vayne playing with them today, which is going to be a pretty big difference, I would say. I mean, Vayne does bring a ton. I mean, he's been in the PPL before. We saw what he could do in Split 1. He is an incredibly important point tank. And so Dethroner on the Shadows is going to have a little bit more maybe of an open matchup there to control the objective.
Well, for those unaware of the Sanguine roster, some swaps coming in there. It is Vayne, but as Gormizer pointed out, not playing today. Stigma, Baller Steve, Neo, Poison, and then Lasagna is the sub. I would assume maybe that's who is filling in for Vayne today. And then over on the Shadows side, some names you'll recognize: Dethroner, Edgem, T-Mac, Grace with 6 E's, but I'm just going to say Grace.
That's way more than 6.
That's like 12 E's. Tay, and then William 355, all on that roster. And like I said, I mean, you look at Dethroner, Edgem, T-Mac, Grace, Tay, William 355. I mean, that is a star-studded minor league roster.
It's a little stacked, I think, is the best way to describe it. I'm just interested to see how they work together. It's a bunch of players that, no matter where they've been all across the board, have been incredibly talented in their role, and now they're all together. But that's always the question mark. I'm pretty sure they've been playing in like community tournaments, doing whatever they can to try and kind of get things going. I know there's a little bit of animosity between Sanguine and Shadows coming into today as well. So like you're looking at this as like they are prepared, and a lot of this is just going to come down to teamwork, I think, between both teams.
I mean, talk to me a little bit about Sanguine, though. I mean, these are all names we recognize from the minor league. Between, of course, I mean, we'll gloss over Vayne. We'll touch on him when it's actually a match that he'll be able to play in. But between Stigma, Baller, Steve, Neo, Poison, I mean, those are big names as well that you recognize. I mean, they have more than a chance, I think, to maybe take a win over Shadows today.
And here's the thing that stands out. When you have Stigma, you have Neo, you have Poison, you have 3 phenomenal DPS players who have been known for, 2 of them known for their blasters, and with the way things are listed, I mean, Neo is listed as the flex too. He's listed as like the guy who's going to be playing the off tank, your Atlas, your Makoa. That's something else that's going to have to stand out to me, is just this guy. I almost don't want to see him not on Bomb King, Drogos, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But if he can have those performances that he's had on those champions on the off tanks, then this is going to be a really cool, really fun set.
Well, that's what Doodle did. Doodle, flexed onto a little bit of the off-tank frontliner role in our last set, but I'm excited. Let's jump into the map bans for set number 3 of our day. Shattered Desert, Timber Mill. I'm kind of getting used to, I think, seeing Timber Mill banned out in a lot of these sets, and then Ascension Peak, Warder's Gate. So Ascension Peak and Timber Mill, less surprising to me. Warder's Gate, somewhat, I guess, raises an eyebrow, but every once in a while you just don't want to go to a map, and we'll stay away from it.
It's notably like all those maps in common a little bit bigger in my mind, so somewhere where maybe you're less comfortable, or at this point, depending on who it is, like Shadows banning those out might be these are really good sniper maps, and we know Stigma just loves playing Kinessa. Let's try to make him a little more uncomfortable. But I mean, I guess you get rid of 4 big maps, and there's still a few left in the game.
Yeah, Ice Mines is a big one. I mean,
is this a Renegade set?
It might be. It might be. I mean, talk about a slow start to what could be a very contested set. Ice Mines it is. I mean, this is a map that caters itself to 4-3 score lines. I mean, you get a big mid fight, and then the other team's able to defend. I don't want to say with ease, but easier maybe to defend on this map. More unforgiving is a word that I like to associate here with Ice Mines. Torvald Makoa, though, first off the board.
This map respects excellence and just disregards anything else. If you come in and you just don't have the point fight that you want, you lose. If you don't get the push started the way you want, typically you lose. Like, it just does not give you room for error. And that's one of those areas, especially with Sanguine making some swaps, especially with Shadows coming in as, again, a new form team. You kind of have to work around this. This is a very good map to equalize things. It's actually, I think, one of the best equal playing fields for any set. It's part of the reason, I mean, even in Split 1, Renegades chose this all the time, because admittedly, if you know the map, well, then you can win it. But otherwise, you're almost guaranteed a 4-3.
I mean, maybe that's what's in store for us. I mean, I honestly, this is going to be a very telling map, I think, of the way that the North America side of the minor league goes. Because on paper, I mean, we haven't seen Exile yet. We haven't seen 5-Stack yet. We'll see them in our 4th set of the day. If you look on paper, though, these are maybe your 1 and 2 teams.
Yeah, no, definitely. And the question right now really is the order. And I think if we see either of these, if you get a 4-1 here, you're set. That's actually golden. And honestly, the dream. Ashe, Genos, and Nara, you're going for something aggressive, but I actually really love this. Pip is another question mark for me. In Europe, he's been showing up a couple times today. In North America, he's been very big. And I know Poison and Neo, even though I know Neo's probably going to be playing that off-tank, both love him, so not too surprising to see him come through.
I was going to say, I mean, you see the Pip locked in, you see Neo on a roster. You pointed this out already, but you expect Neo to then be playing the Pip that gets drafted, but maybe not today, since he's technically, as Gore pointed out, slotted into that Flex 2 role here. Furia and Willow, though, for Shadows, I think, you know, Willow's kind of been in that column of every once in a while, now we're seeing her banned. That dead zone so impactful on maps with these close quarter kind of group up team fights. This map, Ice Mine's no different. That dead zone will make a big impact.
This is going to be a very back and forth. A lot of these champions are really, really, really good at Ice Mines, and that's very, very confusing for some of these. I think, like, Sanguine, their draft is very solid at the map, and depending on how Pip does, can translate to later rounds winning, but, like, this is a very good early game, like, take control and try to keep control, whereas Shadows, I think, get more powerful the longer they can keep the game going.
Well, it's going to be exciting. Ice Mine set number 1, or game number 1 of set number 3. I should say. 2 teams that know each other very well. Game 1, let's get into it.
Thank you so much, boys. This is going to be an exciting one, Kresnik, like they mentioned. Likely to be our 1 and 2 teams here in North America. Some ex-PPL talent starting to float around, a couple of roster switches between them. Which way do you lean just looking at these rosters on paper?
It's hard. I mean, you can't say no to the ex-PPL talent on Shadows, right? You know that they are a phenomenal team with phenomenal players, but they're kind of brand new in terms of getting together, and I actually think they have the worst draft in this game. Game personally, I think Genos Pip really great on Ice Mines, and if they stick with Cherish on the Furia, I think they're losing out on a lot of utility. I think Solar Blessing is just better on a close range map like this.
Okay, there's a couple of things missing. Frankly, Imani was almost a consistent motif on Ice Mines. Not super surprised to not see that, but it's something I definitely want to pay attention to as both teams ride up against each other on Ice Mines, starting to clash now. Nobody making their way in too aggressively. Edge him low, but he's going to be able to roll himself out for the time being. No first blood just yet.
Yeah, both teams playing kind of patiently here. Edge, the Throner, trying to control this barn side, getting some big game poke onto Jalen, but his DR is going to save him for now. Right side control, Neo gets pulled in, Vortex Grip. They're not going to be able to confirm that kill, though. You need to have your team supporting you if you're running that Legendary. I mean, the CC, it has to be followed up on.
Neo's starting to work his way around. He's going to actually dash out. Despite being full HP, that might be a call from somebody else, but right back in, actually, as Sanguine will give up first blood, but answer it quickly thereafter. Another kill to follow. This is a 2-for-1 in favor of the Shadows. Starting to collapse now, a 3-for-1. Mr. Grace up on the high ground, pounding on this Ashe, and Blast Flower does the rest.
Yeah, he's Neo is a player who's pretty emotional, so Grace, a.k.a. the artist formerly known as Payan, trying to get in his head, I think, a little bit. Yeah, trying to tilt him a little bit. I mean, I've been someone who's played with him before, so he's just trying to get in his head, I see. Fayflight actually charged really fast here for Grace, getting a lot of poke there early. Really good ultimate for zoning. Look at
the 184, bonus damage text. That's just funny to look at.
It's a big deal, though. It is a big deal. I mean, that's the fall-off buff plus Blast Flower into the DR. Just being able to put that on, he's not getting passive heal, he's not doing anything. It's still applying a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about this Blast Flower talent is that you don't, even if it's the lightest, most fall-offy hit you get, it's still going to give you that stack of the buff towards your next attack. 2 minutes on the clock as the Shadows did off the back of their 4-for-1 exchange. Grab the first payload, charge a couple of the first ultimates. The zone was rock solid in the back of Fayflight. They're rocking and rolling, already about halfway through this payload push.
Yeah, Jalen testing the right side here. The main tank usually not the one fighting this off angle, but I believe the Ashe is just better on high ground, being able to shoot around those corners. They actually caught out Grace under in the mines. Little fight going on there. Find that early pick for them. Looking solid for Sanguine on the zone. This, as we know, is a very defense-sided map, so them being able to get this, not too surprising, but let's see how much they can push this forward afterwards.
So getting that one pick, this is what I wanted to see next from Sanguine. Do they push up? Do they try and just stuff back on this defense? Do they try and reestablish the defense near where the point was fought over? Not quite, I think the answer there. The Inflame is going to be hit. The gas pedal is slammed. The Shadows surging forward, trying to get something rolling here. There's the disengage. The DR is going to try and stifle some of this damage, but big numbers start flying, and the first kill of this offense goes to the Shadows.
Yeah, they just caught out Jalen there on the ground. That Inflame really helps them move straight in. Jalen coming in. Actually, Overpower coming in. Combo with that to save him. Great Overpower from Baller Steve. Taking down 2, actually, completely flipping that fight. Still 3v3, but Sanguine have a really strong defensive advantage. That was such a immediate response.
It's a great, dude. You wish you could see it
counter.
more,
yeah.
but you really got to give Steve the credit. That is it's really not as easy as
you don't
he
have a
just
lot of
made it look.
time.
You do not.
And even if it's a closer range Overpower, even if you get it immediately, sometimes he just walks away. The fact is, it was the distance plus Steve's amazing reaction time to get that in there.
Kate as well too, you know, support just for his troubles. Nice stuff there. I was not even aware Fury was over in that corner. I'll be completely honest.
I don't know if Steve did that. I'll be full disclosure. I don't think Steve did that.
He's happy to grab it. 15 seconds on the clock here. Quick assert dominance from Neo. He wants the shoulder bash kill. He's gonna get it. Steve finds Tay. 8 seconds on the clock. 2 for nothing for the defense. Means the offense is just going to fall back, and the round will likely come to a quiet end. No overtime as Neo dashes into a nice little Pyre strike there. Sanguine ring through a couple of headshots via the support. Take another look at that time and space. Furia just pushing up the stairs. Steve going for Khan, but he gets Furia for his troubles. Well done, Steve. Again, it's a great move. It's a great counterplay, but it's just not that easy as he made it look. A lot of people will try and get that done. Steve almost getting his ultimate recharged as well. Neo burning assert dominance there on the end.
I was just going to mention that.
Worth it just to kind of put the nail in the coffin on that first round?
On defense on Ice Mines, I'm really not sure. They have such a good defensive advantage. Victor Pip, really good at that long-range spam, playing in those spawn doors. So maybe not something that was needed, but they still have ultimate advantage. You know, I mean, Scout Inflame not quite there yet. They still have a lot to burn here. Maybe, you know, Evil Mojo followed up with anything, and Seismic Crash can combo with Barrage too if you want to get some quick AoE if they clump up a bit.
Overpower used as well, so powerful ultimates traded from both sides as the teams will meet once more here near the payload. Neo taking similar positioning as he did in round number 1. It's always a fun, different story in the second round when ultimates are charged and things start to change as a result. I wonder what he's surging in for. Guess what? It's the Evil Mojo. He gets what he came for. First kill on the Tay.
Yeah, great flip there. Good way to start this off. Inflame coming in actually maybe to try to stem some of the aggression. They do get a trade, and actually everything just immediately swings the Shadows' way. Inflame, when she came out, people were theory crafting, saying it might be a good ultimate. But, you know, when it gets popped, that immediate flip, 30% damage, 30% speed, it's just so much to overcome, and it completely flips your mental calculations. You know, you're in a fight, you're thinking, I can stay out here for like 3 more seconds, maybe 4 more seconds before I have to take cover.
Furious swings too, man.
Yeah, no mercy shown, and then suddenly your numbers are just completely off. It totally
She comes out swinging about as hard as a Luminary Leon.
Exactly.
That's no joke, man. That is no joke. Furia is absolutely...
Even shooting faster, too.
Yeah, a part of this team fight. She's keeping her passive stack, which is basically impossible not to at this level. I would say even at a a gold or a platinum level in rank, you're gonna see a Furia able to keep her passive.
I mean, I've seen some zero healing Furias at that level. I'll be honest.
They're fragging out. If only they knew. If only they knew they could actually frag better if they would just heal their teammates. It's how the damn character was designed. Steve crushes another one home. I mean, you know, something in the Wheaties this morning for sure. He's gone 2 for 2 so far on the beams, but still on the defense here. You know, it was just that Evil Mojo, the turnaround play from the Inflame, but overall the Shadows definitely controlled the point fight. And correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of what you draft for on Ice Mines.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can try to draft for a conversion comp, but that really is a gamble on this map when the defense has such a strong advantage. You can just see, like, you can spam from almost invincibility using that high ground. Oh, wow, really well-angled barrage there from Stigma. Edge barely got caught on the edge of that fence, so he couldn't get away. Might get caught out here by Tay, but he has his team to peel for him. More than enough sustain there to get through that. Things settling down here again. Grace gets picked off on the retreat. I think Sanguine will take this forward. I mean, aggressive zoning is so strong on this map since that choke point right there, if you control this, there's no way for them around. They have to go at least across that sight line.
This is kind of what we were talking about last round a little bit. When you get that kill on the defense as Sanguine, you maybe push up, try and take a new, slightly more aggressive, but still the map is helping you here. The map is giving you choke points. believe that's another End Flame coming through in combination with a Fae Flat. I mean, what a dangerous, dangerous combination. This is not any kills, but a hell of a lot of map control from this engagement.
Yeah, I mean, I actually honestly hadn't thought of that combo until now because I don't think I've seen Fury and Willow on the same team.
That's scary,
until
bro.
this very moment, but combining everything.
Does that break 1,000? That might, well, it only works off, Damage Amp, correct me if I'm wrong, only scales off of her base 500.
I believe, I could be wrong about that.
I'm like 85, 90% sure on that, to be honest with you.
I'm a tank main. I think, look at where I'm standing, and that's about the extent of everything I've ever thought
what I'm thinking
in my brain. But yeah, it's still an insane amount of damage.
Potent.
The speed too, like once you land. Also, if you initiate with Flutter, that you carry that damage reduction into the start of the Fae Flight. So doing all that damage plus that DR at the start, plus the speed, it's a brutal combination. It's still not enough to break the defensive advantage of Ice Mines, though.
I like that comment about the DR into Fae Flight. Fae Flight has changed a couple of times, but it's just in a good spot. I mean, it's been given the ammo, it's been given the more momentum on the startup, it's giving turning radius now, and it's really powerful. Like, I really feel like that ultimate is what it should be now. You're flying around, you're fairy, big-ass wings, you're a tiny little thing, so, you should be able to be pretty nimble up there, and Willow can absolutely crush it.
Once you get in that double jump.
The double jump, at least an Andro-esque float, in my opinion.
Look at those wings, they're bigger than her body. If it's a hitbox, give her something,
If Ying can float, bro, Willow should be able to. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Off sheer force of will. A lot of resilience.
Controlled float. I want the Andro float because I don't like just always having to float when I play Ying. All 10 times I've done it in 3 years.
Payan actually holding this upper area, also known as Grace. They're actually really clumped up in the top, which could open them up to all the damage from Grace here, but they're just hiding. Willow can't get that cross-angle spam if they're not holding close to the windows. No kills being traded off. Seismic Crash doesn't find anything on the other side of the point. Dome Shield comes out to slow things down. Gonna stalemate here for a little bit till another ultimate comes in.
Yeah, Neo is taking different positioning notably this time around. Shoulder bashing, maybe trying to get back from whence he came, where he was playing from in the first couple of rounds. Ultimate's online for the Shadows, certainly. Sanguine have their Evil Mojo, which has been great for them. Into that, I don't know, the Inflame is definitely going to kind of counter-engage this a little bit. Leading by 36%, Barrage crushing home, double kill for Stigma. He's moving around, and it looks like you like that angle.
I was just gonna say, when I'm playing tank and I die because my teammate peeked the Barrage, that is the most infuriating thing.
That sucks,
It's the most infuriating thing. And that angle
sucks.
too, like he threaded the needle with that. I think he targeted Edge, and it ended up killing the throne around the dash out. But still good. There was like 3 counter engages, right? Evil Mojo comes in, Shadows Inflames to counter that, and then Stigma barrages to counter the pressure from the Inflame. It did a lot there.
Yeah.
Just so much counter initiation. Great, I think, foresight by Stigma to get that going. Shadows trying to get this retake, but it doesn't look like they're going to make it.
Yep, that's going to be the first payload going the way of the Shadows. They will get to try their hand on the offense this time. Or Sanguine, excuse me, getting to try their hand of the offense this time around. Now, the game will not come to an end unless Sanguine are able to convert here. The Shadows still are in contest for that defensive point, meaning as long as they don't lose the game here, we will see that 3-3 point fight. Do you think as a result of that, we're more... Oh, come on, Steve. Steve, my guy. He's just 3 for 3. It's this player 4 for 4. Shooting 100% from what I've seen on broadcast is all I need to know. I mean, Steve, absolutely phenomenal today.
For a baller,
with the
he's hitting all
laser
his
beams.
threes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, very, very true, my guy. Very, very true. Are we more likely to see ultimates saved here? More passive approach to this offense/defense, given that this is almost guaranteed to be a 3-3 point fight in the next round?
I think up until 1 minute, no. After 1 minute, teams are definitely going to be a little more wary, especially considering how good the defense is on Ice Mines. But like I said, they're going to use it pretty quickly here before that 1 minute mark. They do have the time to charge it. Poison traded out, but that was just to slow things down. Sanguine are the ones in the driver's seat. They actually have time to disengage thanks to the wall from Jalen on the flank.
Those 1 minute 30-ish ultimates, I think are not only fine to use, but especially in this case, good to use. You want to slow that down. You want to hit that emergency break if you're the defense, just to force Sanguine to take a chill pill for a second and actually have to rethink a new strategy. Here comes the Inflame. Again, definitely chargeable before this round is over. 1 minute mark is what you mentioned. Double Evil Mojo. If this goes well, this could just end the game.
But it's not finding any kills. It does manage to with Edge in the main. Stigma finding that pick there too. Poison might get traded out. He has Neo to peel for him. Great assert dominance by him to stay alive in this situation. But
nice
the kills are all going Shadow's way. They're not finding any. There's no focus targets coming out. out from Sanguine basically at all. And look at the pressure Dethroner was putting onto the backline too. No one could help Neo. This is looking great for Shadows.
Yeah, well done, Dethroner. They're cutting off the reinforcements, so to speak. 26 seconds on the clock. Really impressive team fight there. Let's take a look at the items. I want to see, was it Resilience maybe that, bounced a couple of these targets out? And it looks like 4 out of 5 of the Shadows have it online, and that's probably what helped them fight back.
There's a ton of CC, too, on Sanguine's comp. I mean, Pip, Slow, Pip, Evil Mojo, Genos, Grip, Ashe Ultimate, Ashe Boop, and Nara Slow, and Nara Seismic Crash. Like, there's so much CC. Resilience is such a big buy, and one that people kind of, weren't used to buying anymore with those tank CC cards, but since their removal about a few months ago.
It's been wicked popular. Price change as well.
Yeah, the price change is a huge one.
25, 50, 75 for Resilience. Stigma will find the first kill here. Might be able to end the game. They're going to need to maybe get something else going, though. Shadows holding strong. Plenty of ultimates in the tank as well. Sanguine may have exhausted themselves if they can't get this one through. They're not in the best spot ultimate economy-wise. Poison finds yet another shoulder bash in. Almost takes down Dethroner, but he's dancing. He's staying alive, and it's in fact Neo that goes down. If Dethroner dies to that shoulder bash, does that payload go in?
I don't think so because of the spawns. Everyone at Sanguine was getting pretty low, and we're stuck in the dead zone. I think it looks better for them. Maybe they actually feel more like they can commit another ultimate, too. But I honestly think they're better off not getting that kill. Don't have that confidence. They can hold on to a few more things for this fight, but there's nothing really left to hold on to. Neo managed to charge his assert dominance again, but
yeah,
this is,
pretty much.
Economy-wise, this is looking like a rough mid for Sanguine.
Yeah, and assert dominance, for me, is the critical one. Time and space would be nice to have, granted Steve's accuracy at the moment.
He did miss one during that fight.
They're not going to have a ton of time to work off of these stuns. I think assert dominance, that's why it's the more important one between that and Seismic Crash, because of the zoning, man.
Yeah.
You got to be able to control some space.
They're going to have Evil Mojo very soon, and that does have that minimum duration. Result 2 is basically the minimum it will go. And he's going to be the one we watch here, seeing what he can find with it, Evil Mojo, once he gets it. Here it is. Not going to spend it yet. Looks like Shadows know it's coming. Going to be a little bit further back, just trying not to get picked off. Inflame to slow it down, too. They don't want this Evil Mojo to find anything.
Ice Wall goes up just to keep things on a leash for the time being. Surging forward now. Not for the stun, but for that map control. Nice job from Niu. Nothing off the back of it. That's been the theme of these last couple of fights. Sanguine popping ultimate. Sanguine getting in there, but not getting the kills. Grace finds the first. Day looking for the second. Surging forward. Steve around the corner. I don't think he's going to be able to live this one. Khan tracks him down, but look at the backside of this fight. Yeah. 4 kills for Sanguine.
The Seismic Crash, I think, just completely flipped it. They're coming back to take out Tay. If he gets staggered here, this is really bad for Shadows. He's probably one of their most guaranteed touches, but if he lives long enough, now there's not going to be a forward zone for Sanguine. I don't know if they'll be able to kill him fast enough.
Oh, the shield goes down, and they will follow quickly thereafter. But Sanguine is moving around. They weren't able to zone super effectively because of where he was positioned. Evil Mojo fully charged, ready to rock and roll. Ultimate's getting fairly close on some other characters, but it's a 96 to almost nothing lead. Sanguine starts the overtime.
Yeah, they're rotating over to the right here. Poison trying to find a pick. Actually slows down the Fury. They don't manage to touch. Tay tried to come in on the mount, but nobody communicated the touch fast enough. In that situation, you have to know who's going to go in first. Maybe Tay said, I got it, 93%. I don't got it. Everyone else is already backing up at that point.
I'm in trouble. Else do you do? That's got to be one of the worst feelings when you're playing frontline, and you could speak to this, but like you walk someone down, you're like, haha, got him, and they're just like your whole team's dead, and you're like, oh goodness.
That was
I'm
about to head out.
4 quick kills.
Yeah.
I wasn't even watching the kill feed, so I was probably just as surprised as Tay was, because I was watching, licking my chops, ready for that Khan to get the kill on the Genos. Unfortunately, it doesn't go their way this time around. That was a very, very good game. But I think that's what I'm expecting from this set for the remainder of this minor league phase.
People are kind of expecting this to be like the prize fighter matchup, right?
Yeah.
This is the first, second place. Some people are theorizing going into this, and seeing how close this is already. Sanguine, people were considering, I think, the underdogs coming in, and the fact that they've already managed to take this first map is huge for them. And I think the stats across the board were pretty close. Sanguine ended up having the better numbers, but they were on the defense most of the game. That does, I think, give them a statistical advantage, at least through KDA, at least.
Comes down to, for me, getting the right ultimates charged kind of at the right time. Steve has a couple of great ultimates, because this is not one Time and space, I've always said this. I've always had this opinion. It's nice when you hit it, but it's never a core part of my team fight unless I'm setting it up with some type of
like an Ash ult or a Seismic Crash or something. It's definitely kind of a throw it out. If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, that's why some people kind of just use it. The best Genoses are the ones who track the enemy's movement cooldowns to be able to confirm this easier. Like, he catches Tay here. I think he probably hears the dash or just figures he's going to dash back. That's how he catches
that. What you think he heard it from that far?
Probably just timed it realistically. I'm giving Steve a lot of credit there, but still, just knowing those cooldowns means you can get way more confirmed kills without the set. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy.
While healing, while putting on damage, I mean, that's why Genos is fun, even though people consider his playstyle a little less interactive.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, but I think you can get involved. Like, you can kind of make Genos what you will.
I think I said this earlier, but I have definitely been flanked by Cuss on Bright March behind my entire team. And I'm like, but we can't go for him. But how is he?
Yeah.
I've definitely seen some very interactive Genos.
Awesome.
Geni. Is that the plural?
Intense game one. We'll talk about what the plural of Genos might be over the course of this break. We'll be right back with game two.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the Paladins minor league.
Well, Shadows may have been the favorite going into this matchup, but Sanguine win in a 4-3 close matchup on Ice Mines. Goremizer, that's what we expect, though, I think, on Ice Mines. We expect maybe a 4-3, a little bit longer, a little bit more drawn out.
Trudging through the mud to get to the end more than anything. I think that was, again, it's a good temperature check, because I think if either of those teams 4-1, then both of them look just a little bit better. And it's one of those things I said about Europe, right? You had a clear 1 and 2 very early on, a clear 3 and 4 very early on. It took a little longer in North America than it did in Europe, but now, especially with how this set's going, at least feeling, it's still looking like, okay, 1 and 2 are jumbled. They're right next to each other, and that's more exciting than anything.
I mean, both of these rosters are kind of a conglomeration of players who are at the MSI, so I mean, this is a very important matchup. Baller Steve this game had a huge game on the Genos. Genos snipes, whatever it may be. Looked great up to this point. Expect more of the same. I mean, he's definitely a veteran of this roster and makes good on the potential that Genos brings.
And it's one of those things, Baller Steve has always been a very phenomenal support player, and I think that's like he just continually proves that, right? He just keeps showing that. Whereas, you have to play without Vayne. I can't think of someone better for them to have as a sub than to bring in Jalen Sanity, because it's just that area where it's still like, yes, Vayne is great. Jalen Sanity is great as well. He's been around the scene maybe just as long, maybe a little less, but he's been playing and he has gone to several lands on his own. So being able to come in and kind of fill that role shouldn't be too offsetting here for Sanguine.
No, and they'll be thrilled with the start that they've had here. Game 1 is Ice Mines. That goes the way of Sanguine. Let's take a look at map number 2. It is going to be Stone Keep, and I'm excited, honestly, if this split ends up, or this split, honestly, but this set, if it ends up playing out the same as we saw in Game 1, it's going to be a fun one. 4-3 on Ice Mines, of course, as you can see on our nice shiny new map screen, goes the way of Sanguine here. Good chance for the Shadows to bounce back. They didn't necessarily play poorly in Game 1. Baller Steve with some big plays, lots of individual good shiny plays, kind of won Sanguine the day. But again, that's what you expect on Ice Mines. These close games that all kind of come down to one final mid fight.
And it was like in those weird areas where it was Willow having some fantastic moments, and Willow having some not fantastic moments, right? Where it's just like sometimes you just got away with a little bit more, sometimes you didn't. And it's those moments of like when they happen, there was like a distinct double kill I saw, getting a defense, and then the lack thereof not being able to kind of be there to help close out the deal. But I will say this Ashe was very good last game. Neo made a good swap. Like, I still want to see a little more just to be sure like this is solid, but so far he's taken up to the role really well.
Well, that's kind of been the talking point in a way of the last 2 sets, where it's a traditional, honestly high-tier blaster player that's flexing onto an off-tank sort of aggressive frontline position with Angedoodle last game, and then Neo in this set. Made it look pretty good for Sanguine last time. There might be some sort of correlation, Gore, between ex-blasters and aggressive off-tanks. Barrett Cassie for the Shadows. Ashe Genos Maeve for Sanguine. Maeve has, very strong champion, a lot of history in the recent meta, but a little bit of a fallout in the minor league up to this point. Haven't quite seen her as much, but we are going to get a look at her this time.
And I expect this to probably be Poison. It'll be interesting to see how they swap it up, because now that you have the team set up the way they do, this is a team that can do triple DPS pretty easily. Like, I mean, if you have, your off-tank is a guy that used to be a DPS player, he absolutely can make that flex for you. Very similar to how I feel about, like, Renegades with Moonchopper, very similar to how we feel about NIP with Diggy, where it's just like, if you want to, this is something that is very easily in your wheelhouse just because of the fact that you have that history.
But they get Victor as well with Genos behind it, and then Fernando on top of it. We've seen a lot of Fernando today. It's looked honestly pretty good in most of the games that he's been in. Cassie Leon, notably for the Shadows, are going to have a lot of sort of direct damage, maybe a little bit of an asterisk on that on Cassie, but to deal with this Maeve, poke out the Drogos. Triple DPS with the Furia behind him. Shadows have a very aggressive lineup.
And they're really hoping that Grace on this Drogos is going to be very, very comfortable and very, very realistic to lock him in.
That's a renamed Payan, right?
That is a renamed Payan.
Okay.
Grace is Payan, if you are wondering. Either way, locking that in, Payan is good on Drogos.
Right.
Grace is good on Drogos. Genos, Victor is not good for Drogos' health. It's not good for him to have a long life.
Well, if all eyes are on Drogos, maybe that frees up Cassie Leon to do a little bit of extra damage. Shadows looking to bounce back in game number 2. It's going to be a fun one. Let's send it down to your casters.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Getting ready for Stone Keep now. And my first question to you, Kresnik, is sort of on the basis of how these drafts are looking to function. How does 3 DPS handle 2 aggro tanks like a Fernando and an Ashe?
They just keep their distance. I mean, you want to get... The way triple DPS works, I think, in this meta is you just spam the point from far enough away where they can't really do anything about you, and then hopefully, in your case, hopefully they get impatient, they go on the point, you get some extra damage, maybe they mismanage 1 or 2 cooldowns. If they can keep their distance from the Ashe, this is looking good for Shadows. I do really like triple DPS on this map.
Okay, both teams kind of taking their angles. Nobody going quite all in on the same spot. You can see Payan floating above, or Grace, I should say floating above. That's going to be tough for me all day. Shoulder bash could grab this kill on a Cassie if she doesn't get healed soon. Hidden away, Neo. Very controlled on his front lines today. Not kind of getting blind aggression and really not taking a lot of risks, period.
I think that's just normal for a new frontline player. I mean, he's definitely played it in the past before. I think with Gank Stars, he had a period where they didn't know what they were doing roster-wise. He played some tanks, so he's not brand new to the role, but still, like, it's hard to make that bold decision if you're not sure. And
agreed.
The passive play gets him picked off by Payan.
But it's a nice thing to point to and say that instinct is what separates, your lazy from your minor league frontliner. That is, you got to have that killer instinct. You got to know when you can get aggressive, clean up some of those kills. Nia's a hell of a player. I'm sure he'll figure it out sooner rather than later. 69% to 69% on the objective. The Shadows currently in control. You're a fool if you think this take-back fight is not coming. Ultimate's frankly not too close. Nobody over 70% just yet. So I don't think any of those will be a factor.
Yeah, I think Sanguine definitely have the edge in this first fight because no Wreckers online. Nando, main tank, has that advantage. It's going to be harder as the game goes on, but for now, Jalen will have a good amount of time contesting the point. Not able to actually burn through the barrack, but Payan, Grace finds this pressure onto Steve. Fire spin around the corner, finds it further, finding that pick. 4 picks going straight towards Shadows. Neo is just going to get kind of staggered out here. I was listening for the spray after that. That's why I was honestly listening for the gang spray on him immediately after that pick happened.
Slow and steady. That's what won the race there for the Shadows. They did, just as you said, kind of kept their distance. waited for some of those cooldowns to come up, softened targets up, and then kind of made their move back on in. I think that was very nicely executed. Ultimates are now available, despite it being, you know, kind of a longer first little point fight there. About 3 minutes about to pass on the clock, so look for those Dragon Punches to go out. That's going to be the catalyst the Shadows look to use to make sure this this push gets kicked off on the right foot.
Yeah, that's just a way to equalize things. And Flame coming in with triple DPS, that is an overwhelming amount of damage. Stigma consistently using that barrage to counter the Inflame, but Pain actually flanking with the Dragon Punch, doesn't find the kills he wants onto Stigma. Poison catches that with some good mid-air daggers, actually. I didn't even notice that was him at first. Solid connections there. That's not the easiest thing in the world to do.
I think that's one of the things I'm most excited for Maeve, is that she's not had... She had, like, when the DR loadout kind of got found out and you had some sustain put back on a 9 live, she had some time in the sun for sure.
That was Street Justice mostly, too.
But a real long stint in the meta. Players are going to start to get nuts with this character.
Yeah.
I mean, watching Mutu, watching, frankly, Simsilo as well, I'm watching just the consistency on these knife connections. I'm just like, goodness gracious. That's the only thing that limits this character, is your ability to hit what is a relatively hard in-hand. And when you're crushing those...
Speaking of hitting a relatively hard in-hand.
Oh, man, this character just becomes nasty.
And it's very frustrating to play against, I think. I mean, as someone playing against these teams, these players on Maeve, like, you think you can get a kill, you're like, oh my god, he's so overextended. Then you shoot him and your ass shot does like 280 damage. You're like, I wasn't thinking about that when I was calling that for my team. Now my team's over-aggressive because I just didn't think about 25, 30% damage reduction stacking up.
Yeah, it's something you definitely don't want to sleep on with Maeve, especially as she starts to wind down in HP. She might be getting a little bit tankier. Definitely pay attention to what Maeves in your games, what loadouts they run. Is it on 9 lives activation? Is it falling below the 40% HP? Is it after pounce? What type of damage reduction are they running? Because it's pretty likely that they are running some variant of this.
The 9 lives one, the Scar Tissue build, is actually mostly for dive Maeves. I remember talking to Invocal about it. He said he likes it because when I'm on Maeve, I'm just going in. My 9 lives, that's basically all I care about at that point. Tay, great pressure there too, catching poison upper. No amount of DR is going to save you from an Enlightenment, especially one being empowered by the Inflame.
Certainly not. No, Baller Steve! How could you do this to me, brother? That is tough. Really tough to see that one, and you just hate to see it for him. Niu. Oh, man, I don't know how he's going to have taken that one. Dragon Punch connects onto Poison. Kresnik sinking into his chair, completely liquefied after that play. Salvo is great onto Steve. Niu is back. Immortal's going to keep him alive for a second, and Sanguine actually will hold after spending some ultimates for it. So that tragic dash off the map is
made up for it.
It's made up for. It's band-aided.
Yeah, they had to. I don't think it made a huge difference in the fight. I mean, his damage potential wasn't that high. They did have to use the Immortal because of it, but the Immortal is honestly the way that Shadows are going to have to play this draft. It's just there to buy time. I mean, because they're not going to be close enough where you're like, oh, I got a sick pick. It will counter the Dragon Punch, but they don't have that either. So I don't hate the use of the Immortal there to hold it. Only Midnight and Through Time and Space online for Sanguine.
Yeah.
I wonder how they're going to... I mean, they're going to have to combo them somehow, but they have no real way to lock them down.
My personal philosophy is that one ultimate that puts a point on the scoreboard, it's usually worth it.
Oh, yeah.
I would say. I don't think there's an ultimate in the game that I wouldn't spend to get whether it's holding a defense, getting a conversion, getting a, point. If you're getting a point on the scoreboard, it's probably worth your ultimate. There comes the time and space. A little bit more of a vanilla angle for such a laser god as Steve has kind of made himself out to be in this set. Doesn't catch anybody for it. Tay will find the first opening kill of this mid-fight onto Poison. Dashing out is Niu trying to stay alive. 42% grabbed for Sanguine. They do have to wait on that reinforcement.
Yeah, and they're going to have to find an angle for him to come in safely. I mean, Poison looks like coming around the left side.
He's been playing Church a lot.
Yeah, they're going to have to. I mean, it's safer, I think.
Oh,
wow.
Bruh.
Such a crisp direct.
What else hit him there? I couldn't have just that rocket. He was like full health. Like, what's up, guys?
I'm assuming an Eminence because I think the
either that or that's the thing. There's so much that could just blow you up, and
that's the power of triple DPS.
That's what it is, baby. It's such high octane. You gotta watch your step every step of the way. 33% trying to claw their way back into this mid fight. A very, very big early lead for Sanguine, but the Shadows are right there now, taking the lead. Couple of ultimates to stem the take-back fight from Sanguine as well. Sanguine have their own ultimates coming up, though, in Barrage, as well as Assert Dominance.
Neo has to get this Assert Dominance, too. I think it's super key for them touching, but he's getting zoned out in the banana, not able to get in. Jalen does get in to buy enough time maybe to get this Assert Dominance, but losing Stigma means a lot of their damage potential is gone, and the ultimate's not on the point, so if Jalen dies, he's going to have to get out of this. Steve finding 2, though, I think from the damage coming in from the tanks. Getting really, really good kills there. Cleanup, one of the things Genos can do. Again, low interactive play, but you're able to do fun stuff like that. Sanguine managed to flip this mid on the back of that.
There it is, 99% for the Shadows, but Sanguine keep their heads down if they want to get out of this one. Nice shot from Dethroner, low to high, takes out Neo. And Sanguine will grab this payload. Excuse me, Shadows, despite that small little spectator glitch there, Shadows do grab this payload. They will go on the offense. The game will not end no matter what happens in this round. Either looking at a 3-1 or a 2-2, depending on how this offense plays out. It kind of comes down to, that early lead for Sanguine just wasn't enough. They weren't able to control this for long enough. The Shadows, once they get rolling, it just feels so difficult to stop. Sanguine coming back from spawn, trying to get back into whatever position it is they want to take. They're just getting so ripped apart trying to get to square one.
Yeah, I like how Sanguine is actually doing this defense right now, because they just don't want to get surrounded. That's what's going to make triple DPS so good, right? If you're getting shot at from every angle. So by putting Poison over there in the banana area, getting that control denies the ability for them to surround them. That's what led to that first pick. And all these follow-up picks here, too. I don't know if you saw that triple brand stack he had there. That was 900 burst HP. It's like getting Furia healed, basically. That's really impactful. That brand card's so strong if you can get some stacks up.
Pretty much a perfect position for Jalen Sanity to be. I mean, he hits that huge fireball like you mentioned, and then he's standing in range to start attacking people, but they also have to come towards him and around and then away from him. So he basically dumps the entire clip of that flamethrower into 2 people, getting superb value for Fernando. Frankly, some solid Fernando play put on display. It's an OG character. He's had a lot of times where he was a priority pick, so I think people have that repertoire, that pedigree with the character. Low flying Dragon Punch here. We'll look for Niu. Baits out the Immortal and gets out of dodge.
Great play by Pan there to force that out. I believe that was the plan all along. Now they don't have anything to stop the pressure if they find picks, but the picks are going the other way. Poison getting a pick onto Edge. Now Neo's going to pressure here on the side. Being in the open, not what you want to be, but they managed to barely get Cherish Shield last second. Still great pressure here from Sanguine. They're going to retake this, and I don't know how well Shadows will be able to set this up if they get their backlines in position.
Dome Shield is at the ready for the Shadows on the offense. Barrage there to counter it. Not a ton else to speak of at the moment. Dragon Punch is getting up there pretty quick. That's just what Dragon Punch is, though, baby. That thing charges, 5-6% per rocket per cooldown spree. Dethroner finds the first kill. The offense looking good. 2 for 1 in favor of the offense. 3 for 1 in favor of the offense. This one looks like it's going home.
Yeah, absolutely. Inflame completely turning that fight, making it very
Inflame has been
easy.
good for them today.
Inflame has been super good. You've seen so many uses of it too. Counter initiation, straight initiation, even just to keep themselves alive. Sometimes not usually. When you use it that way and then you immediately die, then you're like, oh.
Okay.
That's pretty much the worst way I possibly could have used that. But he did manage to sustain himself a little bit more and flip fights with it. So good on T-Mac. Really good communication from the Shadows. And that's what you'd expect from some ex-PPL players, coming down to the PML, trying to prove themselves
They're
again.
playing well together. They're playing fast. You know what I mean?
It's basically a new roster, too. I mean, Edge from Sanguine, Dethroner Pan from the Knights, T-Mac Tay from Hype Unit. I mean, just collaborating and getting that, just gelling that quickly.
The little 2-2-1 spread, I think pretty good friends out of game, it seems. Edge and Dethroner at the very least. So I think that was the core of kind of what sparked this roster to come together. Not sure, you know.
Edge. I think Edge, Tay, Dethroner were the first 3. I believe.
There it is. 3-1 here on the scoreboard for Stone Keep. The Shadows trying to get themselves on the board here in this set. Sanguine taking game number 1. Off to a kind of slower start here on Stone Keep. Both frontliners combining to push the same angle here, forcing the Shadows back, which is kind of what they should be doing. That's what they do better than Sanguine's Shadows composition for the time being. But you got to get on the you got to get on the point. You got to use this comeback mechanic.
Yeah, I think it's smart because they took that high ground from them, right? The high ground is what lets them surround, so denying that is strong. And Stigma finding the Dethroner too, a little bit of the tank pressure does give Stigma that room really clean. I mean, it just ended right before. Really unfortunate by Pan. Slightly mistimed.
Might have had the range.
Comeback mechanic. Comeback mechanics helping Sanguine turn this point. Lightning coming out, does not find anything. Sanguine's looking pretty in control of this mid. From
downtown as well. Last couple of ticks coming through here on the objective. Dethroner wants to get in there. No Dome Shield, 97. Climbing up, Neo is completely shut down. This banana angle, as you can see, overtime started, likely to end in favor of Sanguine. Well done here on this point fight. You see the adjustments, right? They took control of the map first, and then they worried about the point.
And that's how you deal with triple DPS in this meta. I mean, it is, by definition, a pretty passive comp.
You can push them around.
Yeah, you can't get in the same way you can with double tank, so you're just never going to get that space. And Sanguine, disgusted, said, all right, we just cannot give them this high ground. If we take it, not only can we spam Pain in the areas here, because we'll be closer to them thanks to the balcony, but their DPS won't be able to roll off that and get into our backline when they do choose to hit the gas pedal.
And you talk about struggling to get it in. Dethroner tried twice, and it just pretty much fell flat on its face. There was really nothing there to kind of help him do that. He's pushing through the gauntlet. Almost the type of gauntlet the Shadows have been putting Sanguine through. We sort of talked about that, like, when Sanguine gets put on the back foot and they're forced to come through, you know, long-range poke from Drogoz and Leon and Cassie, by the time they get to square one where they want to start going to work, they're already beat up and bruised. They don't like being in that type of position. Jalen Sanity with a Immortal to keep this fight on the tracks for the time being.
When you speak about running the gauntlet, I just realized playing against triple DPS almost feels like running a wipeout course. Where it's just like, can you get through the rockets of Lizard, like coming down from the sky?
Yeah, for sure.
Jumping over those fists coming out of the wall. Like
that's a fun show.
That's really how you play against it. How many angles can you dodge? How far can you get in before taking all of your health and damage? Scout coming in to help the Shadows find the kills that they want, and Edge does find 2 top left, catching them out. Notice they weren't looking thanks to the Scout. The wall hack benefit and managed to get from that. Shadows, thankfully for them, they're able to stabilize this.
Another one for Edge, 3 total. A little bit of hurry up and wait now. Payload's in a pretty solid position. Just out of striking distance, I would say, for one team. It's going to have to be one hell of a clean team fight.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe dragging the payload along during the fight to get this one you know, through. And what we mean by striking distance is, like, you win a fight, the payload's going in. It's close enough. It's not, you know, halfway there. It's looking more 80%, 90% of the way there. Payload, it's kind of there on Stonekeep. This is primarily where that big fight is going to take place. Somebody's got to do something. Somebody's got to say jump. The offense usually will set the pace in terms of popping ultimates first, and the defense just tries to respond in kind.
Yeah, great positioning here by Pain to dodge all those shots. I mean, you saw the Victor rotating to get him, and he just basically turned Stigma off. I mean, Stigma just could not do anything to stop him other than 1k damage. Sanguine managing to keep this objective contested.
This is awkward.
Yeah, Wrecker online means there's really not much Sanguine can do to keep pushing this payload.
Shadows are so split up right now. You can see, you know, Mr. Grace, a.k.a. Payin, sort of trying to float his way back into relevant territory. Tay in the back line, and it ends up working out sometimes that way. When you get into a wacky, kind of awkward situation, a couple people over here, a couple people over there, everybody's not like on the back foot, ready to, you know, dig in and do this defense dance. Sanguine don't really necessarily know how to deal with that either, because that's not what they're used to seeing on Stonekeep, rounding that final corner. They're not used to having a Drogoz behind them and a Leon behind them. They don't really, like, you know, have a lot of data on how to handle that type of situation.
I mean, that's how you have to play the triple DPS, you know. Yes, you can take the default angles, but the Drogoz on this map in the triple DPS allows you to set up a surround almost anywhere if your backlines are in the right place. I mean, that's one of the things about Drogoz. When Wormjets came out and teams were just figuring out how to adapt to him, I want to say it was MetaPusher said, you think of him like a sniper almost. Like, you put him just kind of spamming rockets from far away in a weird angle, just getting that confirmed no fall off damage. And they're really playing him like that. I mean, putting him a sniper that's straight above you, you know, that's not one that's easy to deal with. Great through time and space to peel that Dragon Punch there from Baller Steve. Sanguine has to assert dominance, though. Picks are starting to go their way, though.
Up, down, nice stuff there. Damage immunity. Fireball is enough. Jalen Sanity from downtown. Great stuff there. Leon sliding into danger. Yes, confirming a kill, but losing her life in the process. 2-3 on the scoreboard. Neo trying to get out with his life. Stigma claims not 1, but 2. Onto the objective, half comeback mechanic already north at 55%.
Yeah, Stigma resetting back here to the stairs, getting some spam. I loved his pressure to Church there. That's one of the things Victor can do because Sprint, his mobility is just so constant. It's in his base kit. He can get away with that kind of pressure. Just walk in, spam you, run away. Dome Shield from Dethroner has to come down because there's just too much pressure otherwise, forcing out the Immortal, but I think Sanguine might be in the better way here if they can hit the shots onto Dethroner.
For the same purpose, look at that. Formidable kicks in, big healing for Jalen Sanity on the objective. Poison just hitting the daggers, 2 in a row. Looking for his third. He's got a Fernando in front of him. Jalen Sandy grabs the kill credit because, frankly, hell, he did some of the legwork there. He deserves the stat boost. 3-3 now. Sanguine was in a rough spot on Stone Keep, but now they are pushing for the game.
Wow, Poison had 4 HP, and actually Neo,
Easy
Neo
4
saves him
HP,
too.
baby.
3 more than he needed.
Exactly.
Exactly. Setting up here, Jalen pressuring the left side. Zoning here. There's so much pressure on Dethroner in this composition. I mean, I don't remember Knights playing triple DPS much, if at all. And I think that's due to neither tank on Knights really playing a DPS character. I mean, now they can, I think, with Zarini, but...
That's part of it, but it also takes a special frontliner. That's why, you know, shout-outs to Theo. He did it probably for the longest.
And that was on Nando, too.
Yeah, he would do it with Nando's. He would do it with Barracks. He, you know, it takes a special guy to be able to run this. Lazy's trying to work his way into it. Navi is trying to get this strategy nailed down. You see a little bit of triple tank. You see a little bit of triple DPS. But for the most part, you know, you will see those double tank, double DPS compositions. I love where the meta's at. Like, you can see those more end-of-the-spectrum comps. They're still more niche, but it's all viable if you can kind of pull it off on the right map and the right draft with the right mind. Paladins is just in a great spot right now. It's so much fun to watch across a lot of these leagues, including the minor league here. 2 of the premier North American minor league teams. Almost taking the Drogos out of midair is Stigma. He looks to get his team rearing to go for this offense. Nobody's, you know, converted a payload yet, I don't think, on Stone Keep. So if history tells us anything, we will see another mid-fight.
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me of that Renegades game recently, but I do love the flexibility that Shadows is showing here in general, just the ability to have this flexibility, have this triple DPS, have this double tank, means that your drafts are a lot more unpredictable too. If they can find success with this, then that's just a lot more lethality they can have before the game even starts. You know, if you can ban tanks, give away some, and say, we're gonna put Tay on something silly anyway. It doesn't really matter to us. It opens things up a lot. But Dethroner actually has to drop to contest the point. Things are so close. The battering ram makes him basically dodge that. The shoulder bash dodges that completely. Sanguine just find all the picks on cart. They can't contest that. That's the biggest weakness of triple DPS. Dethroner goes in first. Dethroner dies. You can't send 2,000 health people to the cart. It just doesn't work.
Maybe Maeve could tank it up if she was
Maybe.
on that
that's
composition.
True. That's true.
Maybe she could have. She's pushing for the offense, though, that Maeve wanted to put the game. Poison, frankly, impressed with him. Good to see him, you know, again, small little quick chat we had with him at LAN as well. Ex-PPL player from a while ago at this point. But still, you know, a hell of a talented guy for sure. And I think Sanguine and the Shadows are shaping up to kind of be the match that we expected to see. Looks like it's going to go one way, slowly grinds back the other way. But it's a sign of a good team, Kresnik. Kind of a mid-game adjustment. Sanguine figured it out. Yeah,
they did. I mean, that keep control totally turned that mid. I mean, they did have comeback both times, but if you get comeback and then you convert, it's still a win, you know? They still managed to figure out the triple DPS comp from Shadows.
Big damn from Neo as well. Maybe that, you know, relatively safe positioning paying off. Still 10 deaths on the side, but he's getting into the role, kind of learning it, doing some good damage along the way. I definitely want to keep an eye on his performance just because I believe in him. I think he's a hell of a player. I think he came back. He took a pretty decent-sized break from Paladins, but kind of hit the ground running, coming back in to the minor league last phase. We'll take a look at some replays from Stone Keep. That was a great one, of course. Shadows started off hot, but slowly and surely started to fall apart later and later as this game went on, which is kind of surprising for a 3 DPS.
Yeah, I think so. I thought they was going to get worse because of the Nando being main tank, but once they put him in keep and just cycled him off point with his support, they just, even if they got the shield down, he would just wait. And it's not like Shadows could get on point with their triple deeps composition. I mean, they would put Dethroner in, but I think the Wrecker scaled even better, you know, with Poison shredding down these shields along with Stigma on the back line. Dethroner's sustain just goes away. Barrack is really all his shields.
Really, really tough to play that Barrack into those late game Wreckers. We saw that was noticeably not able to get back onto the objective. The Shadows struggling on that. It takes a special front line. Might have to be a strategy that they workshop on, right? Navi's doing it right now. If you're not doing it in the past, it's not something that comes necessarily supernaturally. Something you're going to have to work on, something you're going to have to get everyone accustomed to and comfortable with. It takes a lot of coordination to pull some of these types of strategies off, but that does it for Stone Keep, guys. We'll get to a quick little break. When we come back, game number 3.
Skillshot, the official production partner of the Paladins Minor League.
Thank you guys for sticking around. A great start, honestly, for Sanguine up to this point. Up 2-0 in the set, a couple 4-3s, both going their way. And this matchup, honestly, Gormizer, just as contended, I think, as we were maybe promised coming into this.
Yeah, and it's what I wanted to see, but at the same time, it's interesting to see that Sanguine are the ones kind of trudging more further ahead more consistently. I mean, that one started out so well for the Shadows, and it just they weren't able to continue that pace, right? They hit that 3-1, and it felt like a barrier that they just couldn't overcome.
Right, and at some point, I mean, this has got to be a little aggravating for the Shadows. I mean, they have a roster that on paper is winning these games,
stacked,
so that makes sense that you would be coming out on top of a lot of these matchups, and it just has not worked out. I mean, the 4-3, I mean, in a weird way, bear with me on this one. In a weird way, I'd almost rather just lose a 4-0. All right, we got blown out of the water on that one. Couldn't hold the candle, move to the next one. But, 4-3, you're thinking, well, we could have won that one. So close, maybe a minor moment, and then having it back-to-back. That's got to be tough. But if nothing else, it's proven that this is going to be the matchup, honestly, that I think we were promised.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we're looking at. I mean, even, again, just dissecting and slicing up part of the roles they had last time. Grace was doing a ton early on in that game. Those early rounds, that Drogoz was running way more rampant than a Drogoz deserved against what they had on the other side. It should have been a lot more consistent for Stigma to take him out, but Grace was just demolishing people, and it was making so much pass, even I think ending the game positive, but slowly Stigma grew into his damage. Poison was just doing incredible things on Maeve. It became too difficult to really stay in the air and be consistent.
Well, maybe a little bit better here in game number 3. They need it to be because, I mean, Sanguine, they're off to 2-0. One more game and Sanguine win it. It's going to be Frog Isle. You kind of threw that out as a map when we opened the death segment for this set. Maybe Frog Isle starts to poke its head around, the sniper battle on this map, so traditional, and especially with the lineup that Sanguine have, Stigma notably on that side, very good sniper.
And I think that's going to be the thing. I think Edgem as the one that I've seen flex onto Strix more often out of this team. Not really a place that Grace goes. Tay, while I loved the fact that they were running triple DPS, I love seeing him on an off tank. I love seeing his Khan, I love seeing his Atlas, etc., a little more. So I don't know if they're going to go that route again. I want to see either Strix versus Kinessa, or you just try your best to get away with not having either of them, if you can.
Well, neither of them are banned out here, so both at least will be on the board. We have seen actually in the PPL, it might have been the Renegades or Kanga that didn't pick or ban out either of the snipers and then ended up just leaning into the double flank. I think it was a Maeve Eevee composition that they ran and then just ran down the sniper on the opposite side. They didn't end up picking up one for themselves and just played the full dive composition. So while both of them are up, doesn't automatically mean that both are going to be in play this time around. Sanguine with a Drogoz. That's a good way to make a backline sniper. A little bit uncomfortable.
And it's also, it's really interesting because it's one of each, right? Drogoz theoretically on this map gets popped out of the air instantly, but that's why Warm Jets isn't run. You go for the combustible, you do find those shots either through window or over the wall next to window to make sure you can get some consistent damage onto the sniper. Makes him feel uncomfortable, makes you feel really good about it because you could potentially get that kill without ever actually having to see him. And it keeps it controlled, so if Sanguine do go for a Kinessa here, you almost have a better bet for the Kinessa to do way more damage just because she has free reign.
We'll have to see if that's the route they choose to go. With the Damba on board, going to keep that Inara nice and healthy, of course. And the Strix, I mean, it's such a good point you bring up where, I mean, you can mention, of course, flanks, dives, all that. It makes Strix uncomfortable. He's kind of a plant and shoot type of champion.
Yeah.
But, with the invisibility that he brings to the table, honestly, we've seen examples of Strix players entirely counteracting dive that is brought onto them. A quick snipe, flip to your pistol, quick burst shots. I mean, you're killing an Eevee, you're killing a Drogoz that's trying to dive on top of you. Genos and Eevee, though, it looks like we're Shadows, are going to round out their draft.
I love Shadow's draft. I think this is one of the best Frog Isle drafts I've seen in a long time. Obviously you'd love to have Khan or Atlas or Magoa on your team, but you get really good synergy between Genos, Ashe, and Barrack, so they have survivability, they have really good map synergy, a lot of control.
Well, there you go.
You get Strix, Eevee, you have a ton of damage. At the end of the day, I like there's more for Frog Isle, but right now Sanguine's just been playing a little more consistently, and I think that's the only thing that can kind of give them that edge.
I mean, they round out with the Kinessa as well, so we are going to get to see the sniper in the hands of Stigma. the Shadows have a draft that maybe finds them win number 1?
I think so. I think this is like, again, this is one of like a dream lineup. Most of this stuff gets taken away when you try to run it together.
Well, they need to find it now. They're down 2-0. One more win for Sanguine gets them Sanguine's first win of the split. Let's find out how it plays out on Frog Isle.
Thank you, gentlemen. Both these drafts certainly have their merits, and honestly, you can kind of almost stack up a lot of these picks 1-to-1. Obviously, Drogos being a slightly different blaster style than Eevee. More or less, I would put Ashe ahead of Fernando in terms of an aggressive front line, but other than that, I think these drafts will play somewhat similarly.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to come down a lot to how much the off-tank Fernando can do on the side, because he's really just trying to lock down that zone, not let them get to his Drogos. But actually, is Neo on the Neo's on the Inara? So Neo might be playing Inara off-tank on the side, and I get why. Because if you put an Inara there, that's something you're not going to get through. And with a Drogos and a Kinessa, you just want to lock that area down. You don't want to let them come up danger. We'll have to see how they position. Trade starts to go in the way of the Strix. But, oh, actually, yeah, Inara is playing danger side, getting really aggressive, too.
Getting all up in that business. Wall goes up. Hopefully to keep herself from getting knocked off, falling back, though. Niu does not want to. He does not want to be the first one to die. I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed with his play. 39% already for Sanguine on the objective. And Tay gets knocked off. Is that a combustible knockback? Yes. Must be.
Yeah, that was really, really good boop from Poison, catching Tay. Could not react in time with the batter.
Going up.
Neo is very unfortunate. Neo is so aggressive on this Inara. I mean, it really goes in with his playstyle. The amount of times I've heard him say, just go, is definitely showing here on his Inara. A little bit loose on his cooldowns, but that's something that he'll learn in time. Baller Steve actually picking to Throner in main, getting some extra, I think, gourd damage probably taken out. Eevee trying to find the pick onto Poison. Ooh. Does actually find it. What a good shot by Grace, a.k.a. Pan. Trying to follow up on Kinessa, but I don't think he'll be able to get out
up to the high ground. Went through the right motions, but, you know, probably need the HP before you go ahead and get up there. Stigma now with 2. Free to run. Strix looking for the angle. Strix going to find the angle, miss the shot, and Stigma will not. Turns that one around, pops the headhunter. Stigma takes this fight by the balls and just completely dominates.
This is the scariest Stigma ever. Like, this is the Stigma
you
don't want to play.
This kid's a scary player, man.
He jumps over your sniper shot because you know the ego, the boost is immediately there. Confident Stigma is terrifying on any champion. Victor, Leon, Kinessa, snipers being his forte, but Ice Storm going to chill him out just a little bit no matter how hot he's running. Kills going in the way of Shadows to equalize this, but the payload's already halfway there. There's still 2 minutes. That's decent progress for now.
Yeah, I guess you rarely ever know for sure with all the name changes and stuff, but last phase, Stigma was like kind of my rookie of the year. I'm like, this guy, you know, not ever having seen him before, I'm like, this is a very, very impressive player. And it's always good to see that, you know what I mean? Fresh new talent that comes in, dominates, makes it to LAN, has, you know, a decent performance at LAN as well, does not get kind of laughed out of the building by any means, and does it with a smile on their face the whole time. Stigma, an absolute treat to have around the minor league. For the time being, though, this defense is holding very, very strong. The Shadows pushing Sanguine all the way back to square one at their base. Seismic Crash to try and just breach Frog Isle, get back out involved in the video game.
Yeah, unfortunate Immortal by Jalen barely doesn't manage to save Neo. They have to use ultimates to get out of their spawn, which, I mean, I'm sure Shadows are happy about that.
That's
kind of
not a good sentence.
Yeah, that's the whole, like, point of the aggressive defense, right? Like, yes, you're buying time, but you're also buying resources if you manage to get that huge economy advantage going in the way of Shadows here, at least unless Sanguine can charge up their ultimates in time. And I think there's enough time for them to do that full minute. Good shot on Stigma onto the wiggling Pan, wiggling Grace, floating through the air, trying to avoid those shots. So Sanguine's going to have to move to the corner.
Okay, somebody knows their angles. Stigma, goodness gracious. But again, that aggressive defense, part of the theme, or part of the reasoning is like, you wipe, whoop-de-doo. You all respawn and get to be back where you would have been holding your defense anyway.
Yeah.
Had you just kind of let that one through. So definitely makes sense why people are playing a little bit more aggro. Wall goes up, wall goes down. Edge finds the angle, gets the shot onto Stigma. CC Immunity gets out of the Void Grip. He looks like he's just going for the reset right now. Hops off the map. Everybody else on Sanguine following suit here. Could be a very quiet end to this round.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to get back in, especially with the aggression from both tanks from the Shadows. Tay might go down here, just taking a bit of damage, but Battering Ram's going to get him out. Thankfully, does not clip over that wall. Does happen sometimes if you dash out there. Well, actually,
I've noticed that, yeah.
Too. Yeah, I think it happened to me once, and I think you guys didn't notice it, and thank you.
No, I mean, you're probably just trash and you like goof that up.
I mean,
like
you're not wrong.
No.
That's an entirely separate situation from that. Here's Stigma barely jump roping over the shots from Edge, pulling that out. Headhunter 2 coming in just to keep the stagger going. That was an ego ult,
That was special. That was special. You get in that rhythm, though, and you just want to keep going. Headhunter gives you the unlimited ammo to do so. A lot of fun to play this character when you're rocking and rolling. I've had some of my most fun clips fueled by a Headhunter on Kinessa. Very good stuff. 1-to-1, though. That defense does not make it all the way home. Looks like,
here.
Yeah, it looks like Shadows do manage to get their level 2 items online as well, but just barely.
Yeah, the ultimate's all on advantage of the Shadows, which kind of goes towards that defense they had before. I mean, being able to do that. But I don't think Sanguine's comp is really ultimate focused. It's really just about protecting Stigma. And the fear coming in to deny that pressure from Tay. Jalen was already doing it, but still the kills coming their way is great for them. Good control here on the point. Both tanks there. Immortal to save Neo, keeping things firmly in Sanguine's hands.
You can hear an Ice Storm somewhere, but looking for where exactly it's coming from. Grace will be blinking up here pretty shortly, looking for the kill on to Maldamba. Takes a shot for his troubles. Things are getting dangerous here. T-Mac across the way actually clips Sigma with the time and space, and Grace manages to get out. T-Mac with another one. Edgem finds Jalen's sanity. Very, very nice adjustments here on the mid-fight.
That was a perfectly aimed through time and space, too. I think that just clipped his feet. I'm pretty sure he shot it through the wall. The ult from Poison actually being spotted because of the wings on that skin. I don't know if you noticed. They kind of poked over the wall. Still manages to get the trade, but with the even no comeback mechanic, not going to be enough to flip it.
Rock solid. Climbing the old-fashioned way. Shadows get the offense. They'll get a point on the board as well. Potential 3-1 scenario here. If they can convert, wall goes up. Not quite placed correctly there. The Throner just pops up and over it. Neo blows right by him to get this seismic crash to the back line. Starts walking down the sniper. Won't get the kill, but at least forces him out of the window for the time being.
Yeah, being willing to pull that trigger on those ultimates, especially one that is as influential as Seismic Crash, I think is good this early. They were able to kind of pressure him back, buying some time here to turn around and deal with Tay in their backline. No sprays from Jalen, a very polite player, fortunately for
what a good boy.
The mentalities of Shadows. Yeah, I love Jalen. He's super great guy. Edge here battling Stigma, trying to get some trades. Looking back and forth in main. They don't need to peek these angles right now. They could just hold close and wait for Shadows to come to them. Sanguine don't need to really contest Edge quite yet, but Edge is going to force the issue here real soon.
Drogo's kind of throws up and out of the air. Edgem cracks the shot home. As you can see, world-class sniper players here. Edgem rings another one onto Jalen, grabs the frag. And now this offense just got a whole lot more interesting. Payload rounding the final corner. Flashbang up and over the top. Oh, that would have been spicy. That would, I think, even up the matchup nicely between he and Stigma.
I have a feeling we would have seen that again after this round was over, too, if that shot had connected. The Throner zoning really hard here in the Vines area. Grace also zoning the right spawn. Not many ways for Sanguine to get in. I'm not sure if they can touch. Neo does make it last second, but he had to use his DR to do it, which means once they get around the wall, he's not long for this world, and Shadows are going to take it to a 3-1.
Wow, nice one there during the slow-mo.
Yeah, I mean, those kills are always good.
Should we just call him Pan?
Should we just call him Pan? How about we call him Grace, but we have to pronounce every E.
No. That's door number 3. The bottom tier door in this,
Grace.
in this scenario.
What a great ice storm from Grace. Grace. E. No. Individually, like we're a text-to-speech. E question mark? E exclamation point? No, but I think we can just call him Pan. All right, everybody. 777. We can
777,700.
We could just call him Pan. I think everyone in chat, he is Pan. I think we all know that now. Now it's official. We could just say it. Shadows ultimates in their favor, and they have the win here if they do take it. No comeback mechanic for them, but I think they have the better tanks to fight this because everyone on Sanguine has to stay back to protect Stigma on this mission.
Almost every ultimate as well. Stigma finds Tay again to kick off this offense, looking for Eevee, finds the shot. No kill on that dive. Down goes the Dome Shield. Ice Storm actually will be enough.
The cold, the weather taking down Steve. What an immortal by Jalen, barely saving Stigma from pain. They're still not getting cap time, though, but the kills are going their way. Jalen should rotate over there pretty soon. Poison waiting to get rehealed with the out-of-combat healing, a mechanic I miss every time I play any other video game.
I know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. Going for it. Fish in on Frog Isle, excuse me. T-Mac unable to come up with it. 21 streak nonetheless Eevee trying to crush home some of these Ice Staff shots. This is getting down to the wire here, 85% and climbing 4% per tick. Nice fear onto the objective where all the enemy frontliners had to be. No choice there. Tay cleans up Poison deep into the backline of Sanguine, really causing some big issues for them.
Yeah, Tay dove so far. That mid, honestly, like we saw where the kills were going, but this is all on Tay's back. Look how in their face he is. Dashing, I believe, straight through main just to get onto them, not letting anybody on Sanguine do anything they wanted to at all. Neo still on the respawn means that Jalen's going to have to touch the point, but Tay is straight in their face. He's not going to let Stigma do anything. He's the crux of all of this, and Flashbang, he doesn't know where he's going. Tay finding that kill as well. Steve will keep Neo alive, but it's not going to be enough.
Overtime started here in favor of the Shadows. Eevee crushing them a couple more in the backline. Baller Steve falls. Shots here between the blasters. Not an easy matchup either way, and I think, frankly, Payne realizes that and decides to spray instead of even bothering to continue. The Shadows will claim their first game of the set. Frog Isle goes their way, but they still have to, keep on going if they want to make this possible reverse sweep a reality.
Yeah, I don't think the Inara off tank was what Sanguine needed there. They're gonna need to do something if they come to this map again. But for their sake, this map isn't coming back around. To work on their draft. For the next map, Shadow's gonna have to buckle down. I mean, a lot of them have been here before.
Yeah.
In this situation, I mean, Knights have definitely been in the losing situation a few times, so they're comfortable with it. But can they buckle up and clutch against this Sanguine roster?
Let's see what we can read from the numbers here. A couple people getting close to cracking six figures. Edgem at 92,000. Stigma, despite the flashiness, almost 30,000 damage behind Mr. Edgem.
I mean, I think that's kind of the story of the Strix Kinessa matchup, right? Because she charges, she's going to get more frags because she's going to get the impact players, or at least get those like quick headshot bursts as they walk away. And Strix doesn't have to charge. He could just keep firing those shots. He doesn't have to think about it. It does really give the edge damage-wise to him, but you can see here, he has more damage, but 6 less kills in the end.
Tay with a lot of frags as well. T-Mac doesn't die at all in this game. 20 seconds on this defense clock. Edgem digs in, starts crushing home. I want to get to the point someday where there's quick scopes with Strix, just knowing, I guess, where the center of the screen is, and as soon as you get that in-scoped accuracy, it's just such a clean look, especially on these replays, man. Not quite there, but I hope to be one day.
Some FaZe Clan level stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Scoping and getting those quick little shots. I mean, he's looking very confident here. Strix is something he's been playing for quite a while. That flashbang there actually also securing the kill.
That was really good, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Stigma just kind of like...
He just stood still.
He took a step, and then he was like, eh.
I think he got up to get a drink at that point, honestly. He's just like, all right, well.
That's it for me, boys.
I see nothing. I'm just gonna go for you. All right, everybody else figure this out. I'm out of the fight, basically. Tay's all over me.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Still, a couple of more of the polarizing maps, I think, in the pool. This is one of the few sets we've seen between console and even minor league that is looking like it might have the chance to go the distance. Again, we sort of expect both of these teams to kind of be at the top of their game. Who's going to be one? Who's going to be number two? We don't exactly know. We got to find out towards the end of this set. Take a quick break, get some chips, maybe a drink. We'll be right back with some more minor league action.
Respawn, the official gaming chair of the Paladins minor league.
Finally, Shadows is able to find themselves a win in this set after 2 4-3s. A convincing Frog Isle goes their way. Gormizer, it's not often that you get to set up something so perfectly on the desk and it absolutely comes out into play. But you did just that. Talked about Edgem, talked about the lineup the Shadows had, and it came out to play.
Honestly, it was one of those things that they did it themselves. I was actually really impressed. Like that again, you don't typically get, I want to say like 4 of those champions together with each other without. I keep seeing you look at the logo. It keeps messing with me.
Watch out, there's something behind you.
That's what it is. Either way, you don't typically get 4 of them. It's spooky, right? Look at that. It is actually kind of scary. Like if I was sitting around, if we had all the lights off and like I just looked up and that was behind me, I would genuinely be startled and probably running. But
at any rate, Corey, the lineup the Shadows had, the lineup the Spooky logo had, very good for Frog.
The Ashe, the Barrack, the Genos, the Eevee. Like, again, 4 of those things you don't typically get together. You can see Ashe, Barrack, Genos, but that's already a dangerously good combo. You could see, like, Ashe, Genos, Eevee. Like, 3 of those 4 have been together at any given time, but you always see teams doing their best to dismantle that as much as possible. And so the Strix was just like a cherry on top of a really, really delicious sundae.
Well, there were flashes where Stigma was kind of keeping Sanguine in, and kind of pulling them back into the game, and that's what you expect from him. You give him a sniper. I mean, that's a battle that you don't get to see all the time, a Stigma versus Edgem sniper battle. Well, what a treat that was. Frog Isle, map number 3, goes the way of the Shadows this time. Let's see what map number 4 has in store for us. It is going to be Serpent Beach, that nice purple for the Shadows finally filling in on our map screen here. They're going to have to win the next 2 in order to win the set. Sanguine still just 1 away this time. Maybe no snipers for Serpent Beach, but maybe some Eevee, maybe some Drogos as well. Certainly guys who can play both.
I mean, earlier when we did come to Serpent Beach, Kinessa ended up getting banned. I think that was more of a target ban just because there's some players that like to run her here a little more than others. But this is a map that we've seen snipers on, specifically Kinessa because she can kind of bounce around the high ground, but it is much more likely high mobility flanks, especially those that can go vertical. So Eevee's very big here. Buck can be big here. We haven't seen as much, I want to say, flexibility in that area as we have in the past, but at this point, especially with the way the Premier League went last week, I'd be prepared for literally anything.
Yeah, you have no idea. They're going the way of the Eevee, or at least hovering Eevee right now for the Shadows. I mean, Ashe has started to throw her name into that, like, primary off-tank conversation where, I mean, she is first pick, even with Khan or the likes of Khan still on the board. And then you talk about vertical mobility. I mean, it's a very niche scenario, but the assert dominance gets you up and down a little bit, maybe retaking some high ground. But it is going to be Barrack Eevee over there for the Shadows to start off. But Sanguine steal away Genos.
You remember those 4 picks I was talking about and how they're really, really good together and how most teams try to dismantle them?
Yeah,
this is the dismantling. This is how to separate them. And this is typically what you see is like, oh, they get Ashe. We don't want them to have either Barrack Genos or Barrack Eevee, depending on the map, like whichever one's going to be. If Eevee's for Serpent Beach, since it's a really good map for her, we definitely don't want her going that way. So you just try to scoop away whatever you can and just make it a little more difficult for them to find a lineup that just screams really, 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 really good.
Well, I would imagine with the way the picks have gone up to this point that Fernando, in some capacity, will come out here. Nara still on the board. Sanguine could go that direction. Need to secure themselves a little bit in mobility. Like you said, I mean, triple DPS certainly on the board here. Genos kind of rounds all of that out. A little bit of direct damage from the Leon. Instead, it looks like the Fernando, and it is going to be the Fernando.
I'm okay with it because I agree with what you said earlier, where I think it's time we can maybe lean a little further
even above a Nara
of the Fernando. And honestly, it might be in anticipation. I mean, Shadows have run triple DPS. This is a good Drogos map.
Sure.
And if you're going like Leon's really good against Drogos, but we've seen earlier that doesn't always impact the level of play, especially early on. And so this is a good like flex pick where it's like we know you could potentially go for something else.
Yeah.
Immortal's going to be good with or without Drogos on the other side, so like you're still getting some pretty solid utility out of them.
And they'll look to do more of that in this one. Games 1 and 2. By a knife edge go the way of Sanguine, but Shadows wins game number 3. Game number 4 hangs in the balance.
Thank you, gentlemen. Down here now to Serpent Beach we will go. A little bit of a different flavor than Frog Isle, but I'm liking that we're starting to see this Eevee come out. I think this has been something that Pan really improved on in his previous PPL phase. And though the Drogos was good, those other blasters are solid. The Willow was crazy on Ice Mines, a bunch of damage. Eevee is one of those very special flanker blaster types where almost everybody had to have one on their team. So if the Shadows can grab a PPL caliber Eevee and just bring with it the harassment and the confirmability of the kills and almost the ability for it to play on its own. That's always something that I've loved about Eevee, is just self-sustain, look after yourself type of woman.
I mean, Sanguine was aware of that. Their response was a really quick Genos, Leon, 2 characters that are really solid into the Eevee. They also, I think they picked up the Nando because they did not want Inar Genos. It's a hard main tank role to play, and I think they wanted to make these a little easier for Jalen. Plus, and he's seen pretty good success on this Nando so far. Things already starting pretty good for Sanguine, catching edge on that high ground, but they might end up trading Neo for it. If they can keep the pressure up, but they can't because of the loss of their tank, they're going to have to lose their high ground. The Throner going down, Pan trying to push, has to form hold back. Captime's going Sanguine's way, Stigma holds his high ground.
Barrack manages to disengage, stay alive as well. Payne is not so lucky. He gets crushed out there by Baller Steve. Kind of the sleeper hyper carry today, if you will. Hitting a lot of snipes in game number 1 on Genos. It's been a constant threat throughout. Whenever he gets a character, he is landing big shots, 84%. Something's got you freaking out.
Oh, it's just the Throner Kovacs practice paying off there. Oh, actually, it's Tay. Sorry, never mind. Tay's Kovacs practice paying off there. Does manage to find Stigma. Holding this left side. The Ashe is kind of zoning him out. Has to run away. Actually gets caught by Pain. Good blink in by him. They're going to get Neo for that. Body block from the Eevee on an 800 damage ability. Not something you normally see, but it manages to flip things Shadow's way. Yep,
very calculated, you know, type of move there. You got to understand. You're going to be taking a lot of damage for it. Is it worth it? Maybe if you can self-sustain it back up. 99% for Sanguine. This one's close. But getting back in here is definitely going to be a struggle. Coming roaring back in is Fernando. Poison stunned out. He manages to survive for the time being. Immortal's forced out. This is a bad situation. A large mountain to climb. They don't grab Pay, and Fernando looks like he could go down at any moment here. And the Shadows still have ultimates to burn.
What a good play by Shadows with their tank ultimates. They walled off one door, they dome shield the other. There was no way they could get in. Poison basically has to feed into an Ice Storm to make it happen. Really solid play from the tanks of Shadows there to keep everything locked out. Sanguine's just trying to leave on the side. They get edge, but I don't know if they'll be able to make it out yet. Neo getting body blocked again by Payin all over him. I mean, you don't think of Eevee being so dominant in that matchup, but it's looking like it here.
Ooh, seismic crash completely whips there. Splits the uprights, and at the very least will, you know, force one player one way, one player the other, so they can't play together anymore. Blinking in to blinking out, not getting what he wants. Dave's going to try and play this high ground angle. Couple of daggers going to Eevee. Woo! Nicely read there, whether he meant to or not. Nearly a frame-perfect timing of that second and follow-up attack there from Poison. We'll take down Pan and finally able to kind of quiet this round out for a second so Sanguine can get their feet under them.
I love Poison's cooldown management here. I love his pounce reactions to getting disengaged. I think he's just playing Maeve so well. Definitely, I mean, he was a PPL caliber player in the past, and I don't think he's gotten any worse. He's only stayed the same, if anything, but Tay finding some pressure in the mid to catch him out. Just as I say that, stun coming into Neo too, unable to get him out. Now, this is a map where the defense is normally pretty advantaged here, but when you get picks like that, if you can get your backline set up on this Oasis side to spam down, unless you get Eminence, this is a really good start to the offense. That's one of the best places to hold your back.
You can see that the Throner actually walls himself up onto the high ground. And for those of us that don't have the vertical mobility like the Cassie, it is so important to get on those stairs. Fernando's going to play this little corner here, try and contest this payload for as long as possible. But Kresnik, Serpent Beach is just collapsing around Sanguine at the moment. They cannot buy a victory in any of these fights. And this payload will roll through relatively uncontested.
And this is their pick too. Looks like they wanted to hold ultimates, but there was just so much pressure going in from Shadows. They couldn't deal with the positioning that Shadows managed to get. They were wrapping around early. They did get some high ground pressure. Jalen was able to survive on the edge for a little bit, but once Torch was taken,
everybody was dead.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he was holding it, but
I mean, Dethroner could have ended that faster. He could have walled under him and moved him up into the cart, but neither here nor there.
Well, it's an 0-8 start for the Sanguine front line. 0-5 for Neo, 0-3 for Jalen. You mentioned a couple of key body blocks from Payin, a.k.a. Grace, the player we're watching here. And he's a tiltable player, new to the role, maybe getting frustrated after an 0-5 start on their map pick. You got to wonder. You got to keep an eye on it.
I could see him adapting. I think his read of the situation just isn't exactly what he wants it to be. You look around yourself, you're like, all right, I can get away with dashing now, and then Eevee comes out of nowhere. You know, such a mobile character. You never know when she's going to come in and hit you from the side, hit you with an Ice Storm, just stand in your way. Looks like Tay gets his Dome Shield forced from the tank aggression, and it actually might end up getting Neo killed again, not knowing that the Eevee was coming in, that high mobility paying off yet again for the Shadows.
Gotta say, you know, Pan's done a really good job at knowing when to just kind of lay into the front line, too. If he doesn't have a lot of great angles to work with, not really getting too fancy with it. Hopefully this Fernando burn doesn't actually kill him into the ice block. Well, block a lot of damage with that up in the air, just really kind of playing off the back foot. But off the back foot is kind of where Sanguine are in totality. 93% for the Shadows to 3% for Sanguine. They are getting blown out of this mid-fight. Niu finally gets a return kill, makes it a double, looking to make it a triple. He's going to chunk his way through the Sonara, probably get her in eventuality. It's poison from downtown, all the same. Blue filling up the kill feed, comeback mechanic doing the legwork. This might actually turn into potential offense for Sanguine.
Yeah, the tank ultimate's so influential there. I mean, Neo taking the high ground, getting the early kill onto Tay, and Jalen just being able to survive on point with that Immortal, just buying time. It doesn't always have to save a teammate. Sometimes it just makes the room. Pan managing to get the touch on point with the blink into the ice block, and Jalen actually kind of surrounded Stigma, being able to bail him out with the kills onto Tay and Edge. Stigma trades out as well, but now it's all up to Pan to find the kills here. They do have to walk into the Ice Storm. This could be enough with that pressure from behind.
Huge shots here from Pan. He's crushing it home. 1, 2, 3 after the other. More shots onto the front line. Switching targets to Baller Steve. Last one in the clip. Onto the point. Wow, what a performance from Pan, a.k.a. Grace. My man is getting it done here on Eevee. Sanguine, after kind of losing control of the objective, take it back. Very, very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, being able to hit those mid-range EV shots from behind, that's one of the things about the hypermobility and all the high ground on this map, right? You don't necessarily, hypermobility doesn't mean you're just landing on their face, you know, and just existing there. Hypermobility can be just constantly fighting from an angle you don't expect, kind of like the Drogos in that triple DPS composition earlier, right? Blinking to their bridge, making it so everything they thought was safe isn't safe anymore. So clinical by Pan to find all those shots, getting all those kills, and just basically almost single-handedly winning that fight.
Yeah, that was incredible there. He gets the initial touch. Definitely want to give some credit to Anar for holding it down. To Throner managed to stay alive pretty effectively there. I imagine he's getting pocketed, but you know, a nice rotation of cooldown always helps the point frontliner buy as much time as possible. Big ultimates being spent right now for the defense. Neo will grab 2 more for his troubles, setting up the team nicely, and Poison will chase no further for the time being.
Really good reaction from Neo. I mean, he dove in, immediately asserted dominance. T-Mac couldn't react fast enough. We heard the Dread Serpent try to come out, but stun came in first. Both kills
didn't even take the charge.
Yeah, didn't even go. It was so fast. Kills immediately going Sanguine's way. Shadows have a few ultimates they could use if they want to confirm this. If they use it early, I mean, if they lose, what, it's 3-1? Even if they lose, it's not going to flip anything, and they want to go quick. Dread Serpent finding Jalen over on the side. That means no control on Orange. The backline could be weak, but Pan decides to go for the tanks up top instead. Ice Storm forcing Neo back. Poison has to rotate away. There's really little DPS pressure by this last point.
Uh-oh, but what a flank this could turn into if he could just hit the shots. Poison finds 1, looking for 2 here around the corner. Has to deal with this Eevee. And Wisely disengages. He wants to focus on what's most important to him. Doesn't have the Ice Storm, doesn't have anything to get this done with. There's still a lot of members of the Shadows here to try and push this one through. Dome Shield is at the ready. Barrick off the top rope, drops it in WWE style. That's good damage too from this flame turret. Do not sleep on Dome Shield's actual offensive output capabilities. The Shadows, they look like they knew what they were doing. Start to finish 4-0 on Serpent Beach.
RKO Dome Shield out of
that
nowhere.
Was sweet. Boom!
Right down. I mean, oh, that's so sad.
You're
That'd be so satisfying, right?
That thing kind of hurts.
It's like 600 DPS.
Yeah.
I mean, it got buffed recently. That's so much damage.
You can't sleep on it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, both their tanks were like half HP, and then the combined pressure just wiped them off the face of the earth. DPSs were coming back too, but they're not going to burst through that Dome Shield not in a million years.
No, very nicely played there, despite losing, Pan fairly early on. The Shadows locking it down, man, and that, I gotta say, again, that was one of the better take-back fights in recent memory. Not a lot of huge damage numbers because it's it's the 4-0. They got it done very cleanly. Shoutouts to Tay, 65K on Barrick, rocking and rolling. We mentioned earlier, these lockdown frontline players who are performing very well, especially with Barrick. they're going to top damage sometimes. 10-2. I mean, he has a really, really great performance. This team is looking more and more like the total package, especially when they are pushed to their absolute limits, like they were on that one in particular take-back fight.
Actually, interesting comp there, interesting build onto Pan. I think he's running Killing Frost 4.
I noticed that. I was like, man, he really got a. You see out of the corner of your eye when they're fighting, when they get a reset like that. You don't know always what number it is, but that's a high value card if you can get the killing blows.
Most people run it at like 2 and then run like Sword
It's
Speed.
a compliment.
No speed, but he's going to use it to dodge. But Tay, I mean, top damaging for the Shadows, applying a ton of pressure, basically winning the game with that Dome Shield in the end.
You know, I wonder if it's because he's looking at this lineup for Sanguine. Like, you can look at Leon and say it doesn't matter how much speed I'm running. It's not going to make a difference. So might as well have this very high-risk, high-reward card. It's one of the most fun cards in the game, for sure. Especially if you can pair it with like an Over the Moon or something and just obliterate a whole team. Very, very fun stuff. Eevee has had a pretty concrete loadout for the majority of her lifespan. So it's nice to see a little bit of variance every once in a while.
I like it on Serpent specifically, because if you can have more flexibility, right? You don't always have to have your wormhole high, right? You go in, you get a kill, you could just soar back out if you used it to commit too.
Potentially. All kinds of cool stuff there. Eevee, a phenomenal character on all fronts. Love to play her. One of my favorites of all time for sure. That does it. We're going to take a quick little break, and when we are back, we'll see if the Shadows can complete the reverse sweep.
Paladins Minor League is brought to you by Evil Mojo Games, developers of Paladins.
Well, in a day of 3-0s, we're going the distance here in our third set of the day. After a couple Sanguine wins, the Shadows bounce back in a considerable way with a couple, honestly, wide margin victories down the stretch here, Gormizer. And it looks like now all the momentum's on the purple side.
And it honestly is the best thing I think we could have had. Like, again, in a day of 3-0s where things seem like they might be close, but you're having to look towards the future, specifically in Europe.
Yeah.
In North America, to be like, wow, these are the number 1 and number 2 seeds one way or another, and have them go 5 games, that's probably the best bet you could really have for them. It means we're in for a really fun split. And
especially, I mean, this set is not over yet, but looking towards the next set even, we're going to get to see the next 2 teams in this region in action to round out the day, and we're going to get a really good feel on kind of where everyone stands. But yet again, another convincing performance there from the Shadows in map number 4. Let's take a look at map number 5, see where Sanguine's going to round out this set. And it is going to be Splitstone Quarry. One final map to decide it all.
This is going to be an interesting one. I mean, just looking at the last game, obviously the thing that stands out is the fact that Tay just popped off on Barrack.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I'm going to, again, equate this to like a Renegade's playstyle where when Hero is having like these 11-2, or in that case 10-2 Barrack performances, the game just becomes so much easier for your team because it's like, man, like even your carries are just like, okay, yeah, this guy's going crazy. Like, we're just going to let him do it. We don't have to worry about anything. Shadows are on a tear right now, and that's a scary prospect for Sanguine just because of what that can start to imply. Like, I mean, you can't take away comfort, really. Like, you can try to pick around it, but if they're already feeling really good about this set and feeling really, really good about what they've been picking, you can shake them up mindset-wise, but it's going to be a lot to tear down their mentality.
And I mean, these are teams that, although the players themselves are familiar with one another, there's been some swaps over the last few weeks between MSI and now. So while they know the players individually themselves, they don't quite know just yet. Maybe, of course, they've probably scrimmed one another, but really how they all play, who you even need to identify, who you need to make uncomfortable in a lot of scenarios, and that's a lot of kind of what we're seeing start to get fleshed out, honestly, throughout the first few games here. Cassie, maybe a con for the Shadows. Genos Barrack, that's a pretty potent 1-2 stack there. The Barrack does a lot of damage anyway, but Genos behind him, a little bit extra.
And on Splitstone, you're still looking at like champions like Eevee still being in play, being able to kind of come through, not banned away or anything. So she still has some potential to sneak through here for Sanguine, maybe give them an edge up. I think it's insane, the world we live in now, where Khan is unbanned and goes 4th overall. Like for an off tank who has the presence that he commands,
you are not welcome
it's impressive
here.
to just see him not prioritize. And like, seeing Ashe prioritized over him makes sense to me, but seeing him go beyond Genos, beyond Barrack, is just pretty impressive.
It's almost a shift of priority, just like downward almost, like one more pick even, where a lot of the times now Genos has kind of started to slot up there in this case as well. Cassie, maybe Leon every once in a while. I mean, he's still in the realm of the first couple of rounds of picks for both teams, but normally any of those 4 bans down at the bottom, or Khan in this case is open, that's first pick right off the bat, but not so much as of late. Shadows looking to round out their draft. They're going to have the Furia, and the Willow has been a polarizing champion, to say the least. Some great games, some iffy games, but Shadows are leaning into it.
I like this call, though. It's iffy to call triple DPS, just in general. Like, you can always feel a little on the fence about it. But Willow is going to be really good. Like, Inara already has trouble healing with Genos.
Right.
Now you've got Inara trying to heal with Genos, and there's a dead zone on the point. Like, that Willow doesn't nullify the Inara, but it makes her hurt. She is not going to be having a fun game. And I think the same thing goes, like, this Kinessa is going to be strong, but she's going to have too many things to hit. There's 3 sources of damage that are coming her way.
One word, Gore. Shadows, Sanguine.
Shadows. I like their draft a little more.
That was more than one word, but we're going to stick with it anyway. Shadows, he says, for game number 5. Let's see how it plays out.
Come on, Dave. Gore's a bad boy. He's not gonna abide by your rules. Nobody makes him bleed his own blood.
He put on. I saw him put on his leather jacket and ride his chopper out of here yesterday.
Yeah, that's right.
That PCL.
That's the soundtrack.
An intimidating figure.
Indeed.
He puts on his face during the games, but
you might think, you know, he's just a cuddly, friendly neighborhood Mr. Rogers, but Gore Miser might be a cold-blooded killer on the weekends. No one can say for sure. No one's lived to tell the story as far as that goes, and I'm not going to be a part of that story any longer. Shadows, Sanguine, game 5, guys. Somebody's got to be the winner. Somebody's got to be the loser. Picking Inara Barrack into big game.
Yeah,
thoughts?
It's big game's not that bad into Barrack. Like, Barrack kind of gets away with it because of his dash mobility, but picking it into triple DPS is rough, I think. I mean, you're just going to get surrounded and spammed. Those are 2 low mobility tanks. Their biggest weakness is that, again, it's a composition that relies on Stigma, but Shadows have shown they can get away with that. They can play around that, especially with all the pressure they're going to put on with Willow on this map.
Well, this Kinessa should be relatively safe. There's nobody, you know, on paper to flank her out too hard, unless it's Khan that literally just runs it down and tries to solve the problem himself. Nobody has managed to step onto the objective just yet. No kills coming through. One has to be put before the other. Big shot here. Very, very close range. Kinessa snipes Edgem rolling out, trying to stay out of harm's way. The call is made, though. Niu makes the flank, gets the kill there. Stigma will quickly follow up with the second kill, and now Sanguine can start to get onto the objective.
The objective of both teams is kind of the same. You know, they're both trying to just spam the point, not let anybody touch, but Shadows should theoretically be better on it, but that close range headshot by Stigma, I mean, if any skill matchup is going to break through that, it's going to be when you pull off something like that.
Yeah.
Getting very aggressive to clean up that kill. Poison making it out there, actually. But Sanguine, they have 2 different tanks to cycle on and off of the objective. They should have a small advantage in this, but I feel like the damage of Shadows might be able to take this back. They're not able to force her off the point yet, though.
You know, Poison has some tough matchups, but I'm definitely looking for him with his Genos backing him up to be an impact player in this game. Big shot there from Stigma, unable to find the kill. Rotates up high, looks for it, can't quite get it. There it is, Headhunter pop, trying to counter out the Fae Flight. One missed shot was all Pain needed to make sure he grabbed that kill. Poison, nice mid-connection in the air. 84% for Sanguine, but the Shadows are starting to win this fight. Take back control of the zone. One critical shot would have taken Poison out of the skies, but again, he stays alive, moving to the back line.
yeah, all the cooldowns went into Pain, managed to get away. Poison managed to get away. Sanguine looking not in control of this whatsoever. Steve trying to peek up here, maybe trying to get some spam down. Looking for it through time and space, I'd assume, but it's not safe onto the con. He's going to just shout through it. Can the tanks make it in with the low mobility? Willow's already spamming, has to DR through the dead zone. Almost gets body blocked, does make it on.
Nice.
Perfectly after the grace from Tay, getting caught out by the through time and space. Tank's playing on the objective to throw it with the overpower onto Neo, but the seismic crash is going to flip this.
The Shadows will grab this one despite it is Sanguine who grabs this one despite that, misdisplay there from the spectator. And I guess we call him Stevie Wonder at this point because he's hitting those snipes blind, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wonder. Straight up. I don't know any Stevie Wonder songs. I would have loved to have gone on this adventure with you, Nick.
Signed, sealed, delivered.
Signed, sealed, delivered. Is that Stevie Wonder?
I believe so.
Oh my god, I'm so uneducated. I have so much to learn. Sanguine holding here on the mine side.
This is where Evan would have been for. He would have known. He would have known. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Totally happy to have you here, Kresnik. We will miss our sweet little rain day, of course, from time to time. 1:45 on this particular clock. No comeback mechanic, no funny business, just a great fight between Sanguine and the Shadows. Big ultimate started to come up. I mean, an overpower was used there. There was a nice shot to shut down the Fae Flight. We saw a Headhunter. We saw time and space. A lot of things connecting. Stigma, he's just showing up today. We call it a heat check ultimate, almost one taps, it feels like, onto that Furia. Nice shot onto Khan. Looking immediately, after he forces people into that corner, just looking at the spawn doors, just seeing who's coming next.
What a good counterplay by Sanguine, too. Inflame comes in, Sanguine's just out. They're so far out, and Shadows are so hungry. They want this win. There's some hostility between these teams, and I think it just overextends Edge right into Stigma. He turns 3 around. Defensive advantage, though, being able to play on those spawn doors to keep themselves healthy means Sanguine's health advantage doesn't matter as much by the doors.
53 seconds now. Enlightenment to the back line. Tay's going to get it. T-Mac finds one for his troubles as well. It's a 2 for 2. Make it a 3 for 2 as Stigma continues to just pop. I mean, hitting headshots, fully charged, bonus damage. This man is simply performing. It's a sniper. It operates very simply. You either hit the shot or you don't. Pain finds a nice flank. Gets the kill, shuts down the sniper, landing big damage onto this front line as well. Doesn't want to, bite off more than he can chew. Happy with what he's gotten. Now as this fight starts to wind down, we'll take a little bit more defensive positioning.
The Fae Flight, I mean, before that Fae Flight was even over, he had 22% on it from that spam. So spending it there that close to the end, not too bad for the Shadows to think about all they're willing to spend. Sanguine, they're going to have to send their Eevee into touch maybe if they have a good enough forward zone, but it looks like they're sitting back. Smart with the triple DPS. It's very hard to gain that ground, but Jalen's going to take so much damage coming in here to contest.
There it is. Overtime will start. Jalen's sanity dies almost immediately thereafter, so Dethroner going to kind of have his way with the back line here, switching targets onto Barrack, getting defensive now, throwing up the shield, wanting to stay alive. Overtime is in danger of actually just expiring, especially with Neo going down here. Nobody to touch. The Shadows will hold the defense, and a 1-1 on Splitstone Quarry. Game 5. Again, somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose. Right now, Stigma looking like he wants to win. I got to say, I love this sniper, dude. The headhunter sound effects and just the little squirt.
Yeah, I mentioned it, I think, last time I saw it. It's like a 0-degree pressure washer. It's like when you put that nozzle on. I mean, you hit yourself with that, it's going to hurt
so funny, dude.
Almost just as much as those headshots do. I think Sang would have a chance to take this mid, and I mean, they won the last one, so obviously they do, but it's so reliant on Stigma, I feel. It's so reliant on Stigma hitting these connections. Shadows have more of a fallback, but if Edge and Tay keep kind of playing into these angles and Stigma keeps playing as hot as he is, it's going to be hard for Shadows.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's room for Poison to put more pressure on as well. I think he's got Genos behind him. Again, some pretty difficult matchups. Into Leon, into Cassie, especially at close range, is not the easiest thing to fight into. But I want to see Poison become a factor in this game and not have it all be on Stigma.
Yeah, I mean, that's the exact kind of... He's a non-factor now after Pain finds the kill on him on the left side. I mean, that's the exact opposite what you want to have happen. It's so much pressure on Stigma if they shut down Poison like that. It's so hard for an Eevee to get in, I think, at least against a Leon and a Khan double hit scan pressure. Overpower committing on the point, catches Jalen.
Okay.
Tank pressure is evened now, just 1-1, but 3 DPS is backing up Dethroner. Dome Shield has to come down. Neo actually layers up his shields, but he's just going to get thrown out anyway. Manages to catch Dethroner with the pressure from the Ice Storm from Poison. Edge backing up a bit, had the Inflame. Damage is not going to make a difference in getting this kill. Reset comes in, Barrack so hard to kill, but manages to find it on the right side again.
Die, you damn dwarf! I mean, so many resets, so many last-second sustain emergency parachutes pulled out for this Barrack, but Edgem will finally get the kill. The Shadows now 80% in the lead on this objective, looking for the Sonara to get back in. Sanguine have a seismic crash to work with against just an enlightenment. Winding up one, the other might be following up here. Stigma, he's getting aggressive. He's just got to go for it. Enlightenment gives the damage immunity, forces Stigma back into an angle he's less comfortable with. This is kind of awkward.
Yeah, I mean, Seismic Crash had to come in to the point to force them off, so no cap time was getting done. Great Enlightenment by Tay just to survive. Usually don't think of it like that, and it's just going to flip things. Stigma had to back up into a dead zone, couldn't get healed. Shadow's in complete control right now, setting up, taunting just to 3-peek around the corner, maybe get a little bit of an advantage, but then he saw that Sanguine was nowhere to be seen. MIA. Shadows with that win, they're going to set up for a strong offense.
There it is, the full duration to do it. Trying to get ready to break this corner almost immediately, but frankly, given where Stigma's position, it looks like Sanguine might not actually look to hold on what is typically, you know, one of the main choke points on Splitstone Quarry. People fight out over this corner sometimes for the full duration of the round, and Sanguine just give it up. Is this just because they have Kinessa? You know, you got to take the line of sights you got to take?
Half that and half because the last fight went so long that if they had moved forward to take it, the odds of Stigma dying were really high. I think there was just too many chances for him to get caught out. And if they get caught out, Inflame is going to be the reason why it happens. Poison a little trapped in here. Edge trying to push, manages to soar out. Barely actually got really low, I think, from that Mind's pressure. Look how low Sanguine is, but Shadow are going to feel a little smarter from last time. Don't want to overextend into the Kinessa, but T-Mac didn't learn his lesson. Stigma manages to find him on the back. Poison flying in to find Payan too. This push completely halted by Sanguine.
Nicely done there. Poison starting to get on the board, come alive. Let's take a look at the damage. Let's take a look at some of these stats. Start to see if the numbers can tell us a bit of a story. 8-6 for Poison, 9-4 for Stigma. So frankly, solid.
Damage, yeah, damage really in Stigma's way. Like I said, it's really the Stigma show right now. Poison is applying pressure, and that's a lot to ask for an Eevee against this composition, but I think he needs to be showing up more with every DPS and his own Barrack ahead of him on this chart, and Stigma making even more of a lead with that pick on team.
Yeah, and I'll be one of the first to say, you know, Eevees and Rose aren't all about
the damage.
You know, inflating these big damage numbers, getting in there, you know, grabbing kills like that, for instance, like being able to finish what a lot of times this sniper will start. Battle Shout prevents the damage from that ice shot. Overall, I think Poison's playing relatively safe. Maybe it's just Stigma is so loud, so proud right now, it's kind of hard to look at anything else. 23 seconds on the clock now. Only really one defensive fight won by Sanguine. Pain's going to go all the way in, up and over the top, start working on the Sonara. Blast Flower slowly increases the amount of damage you're able to do, switching targets onto the Barrack now. Edgem attacking from the other side. Just ruthless target swaps here. Pain is all over the place.
Yeah, and he was able to actually build those Blast Flower stacks onto the ice block, too. An interesting little interaction that allows him to burst that Eevee right when she gets out of it. Pain trying to come up here to catch Neo. Can Neo find two? He's going to have to run away. I don't think you can win this duel. No amount of fail-safing, bowling, healing station will get you out of that one. Jalen getting pressured off the cart. Blast Flower, no DR to get through those stacks. Is that a second Inflame coming in from the Furia? It is.
Sure is.
Really, really quick. Pain actually 40% to his Fey Flight. Not going to happen soon. Overpower coming in to catch Stigma. That's a huge threat out of the way. Unless they can find the kill onto Dethroner, this could go to Shadows' way.
Could potentially. Dome Shield will slam down, but Dethroner has a shield to match it, just buying some time. Pyre Strike goes through. Dethroner, quick flip of the Barrack up over the top, hits every shot in the clip, but Stigma's just gonna put him in the dirt. Stigma puts two in the dirt. Stigma keeps the game alive, 2-2 now. My man just popping off in the kill feed. Poison throws one in there for good measure. And it's all the Kinessa Eevee show for the time being.
Stigma 13-5 after that. Poison not too far behind, but
dummy popping.
Much higher in the death chart. I mean, you can see the pressure that gets put on in a lot of these situations. Poison just flying away from Tay, but Edge is kind of just getting, I want to say, like annihilated by Stigma. I feel like every time Edge peaks, he's like, all right, I'll get my impulse combo, or I'll get my blast shot left click combo. Maybe I'm already 20 HP, and now I'm gonna leave. It's just not working out for him in these fights.
Which is kind of interesting, given typically you would look at Willow as the more hard countered by Stigma. But then you got to look at where people are playing.
Yeah. Did you Payne's positioning on mid is perfect.
Yeah,
He's
way
holding
in
back in that house. At one point, he even fluttered just across the sight line, so he would never have to peek Stigma. And he drew like 10 seconds of Stigma's time, but I guess Stigma's sick of that. Stigma's staring at where the Willow's supposed to be, playing down in the quarry this time, but looks like Shadows are ready for it. They were very ready. They catch Stigma. They knew where he was going to be. Tay finding an eminence from across the map, more or less. Low health playing on this side, just trying to set up the surround. Nobody sees him, though.
And look at Steve and Poison. This is... I kind of question why Poison's position. Like, what are you going to accomplish from up there? You know what I mean? Blinking down onto the point to poke a frontliner once and then back up. I think there's definitely room, again, especially with Luminary Geno sort of backing you up to really, you know, be a big factor, get aggressive, start to, you know, take it to him in the back line. One shot would have done it, but Stigma says that's one shot too many. You won't have time for that today. 87% for the Shadows. They could go on what could be a set-ending offense if they could just close out.
The Willow damage missing, though, is making it really hard for them to cap. The Throner has to leave. Not a great point tank. He can deal with it for a while, but...
Didn't die, though.
Yeah, he didn't. Barely made it out. Edge trading for it, though, on the far side, trying to take some early ground. The Khan has a big disadvantage on the point because of the high ground, right? I mentioned earlier, used to not like Khan and Stone Keep because of the high ground, making his shield a little worse. It's just as bad on this. I mean, look at where Baller Steve is playing, where Poison's usually playing. That's a lot of pressure from up top. Take barely surviving with that Grace around the corner.
Takes a big boy. Headhunters pop. Baller Steve goes fishing, comes up empty this time around. 87 to 81 on the objective. Headhunter was used, but has faded now at this point. Poison's got to get in there. Shadows just steal it away. Despite the fight kind of just getting going, Sanguine lose sight of the objective for just a moment, lose one of their frontliners, and just like that, payload. Way of the Shadows again could be a set-ending offense.
Yeah, that was just good focus fire from Shadows. They knew that it had to be Jalen. I don't think Neo was quite close enough to go for it, so they just spammed Jalen around the corner. He was like above half HP in Quarry, but they just kept putting on that pressure. He had to use his DR, just never was able to make it in. I think great foresight by the Shadows to know what the main priority had to be in that fight.
Well, breaking this corner again. Sanguine sort of taking the same positioning they did last time. Could be for the same reason. Stigma having to just get out of spawn and get back involved. Finds Tay, and with that, you can already see Shadows starting to kind of hightail it out of here. The runner might get staggered here, might be able to make it out. Has his dash up in a second, pops himself up to the high ground, but into the fire of Neo and Baller Steve, and has to take a seat.
That's one of the most misleading places to back up to. Every time you back up that way, you feel like you're safe, and then you turn that corner and you see that massive sideline all the way from their spawn. It's like, yep, was not thinking about that when I was punching this into my calculator. Looks like I am done for. Jalen pretty forward here, actually, trying to get some dismounts, it looks like. He pays for it with 2k HP, but Mark plus DR is able to save him. Inflame maybe trying to follow up on that, but he's already re-healed the wall to stem a lot of the aggression. All the pressure's going to have to come through main now, and it looks like it's enough. Fateflight, I think, came over and found two.
Wow, that's big. Neo hits a big shot to shut it all down, but has Payne already found too much in this instance. Edge him. Looking for an angle to work with. Look at this Gnar just so low, but hiding under the dome shield for the time being. But that's not stopping this fight from falling apart all around. Sanguine. Stigma manages to get one return kill. Has to go big. He's gone big so many times before in this game. He might be the only guy I would look forward in this situation, but I think that's a bit of a mistransporter that's not really where he wanted to be, but his team is bailing him out with ultimates. It's going to cost them Seismic Crash. It's going to cost them Headhunter. It's going to cost them their through time and space as well. At the end of the day, Kresnik, they stay alive.
Yeah, they had 4 ultimates used there to defend by Sanguine. Shadows coming up on their next few, so Shadows, if anything, just look to probably do some damage, have some more ultimates coming into this mid. They know that there's almost no resources for Sanguine, so as long as they can deny Sanguine getting some, should be fine, but Poison's looking to get that kill. Luckily for Shadows, he already has his ult, so that kill won't mean too much coming in here.
Quiet end of the round, 3-3 in a 2-2 scenario. In this best of 5, it's all come down to this one mid-fight between the Shadows and Sanguine for who will claim what is likely to be the top spot in North America. We expect these two teams to be the 1 and 2 seeds. It's just a matter who's going to put themselves out in front. 18-8 for Stigma as he continues to pull his weight. 14-9 for Poison, hanging in there. Jalen, Sanity, and Neo, they're the frontliners. Frankly, Neo almost even. 3rd in damage. It's a good performance for me. I'm not really expecting too much more. It's really about where these DPSs are positioning each other. Whoever's getting the frags are deciding whose frontliners can kind of move after that. The frontliners are sort of waiting with bated breath as the high-octane fraggers go at it.
I want to see how Shadows adapt here, because we know Stigma went lower, and they were able to turn around to that. Poison looking to be a little forward here. Is Shadows ready for this with a mark? Tay actually looking for him in the 3P. He can't make it in, so he has to rotate towards the point to find a kill. They're playing so far back, which is smart with the triple DPS. So quickly burnt out. What a good adaptation from Shadows. They figured that they're going to get aggressive, so pull back, wait for that kill to come in. We can buy as much time as possible. It's not like they can get on the point with all our damage.
Okay, that's a pretty staggered kill there. 9 seconds on the respawn for Stigma as you see the Shadows start to move forward. And Inflame comes out as well. They're looking to get aggressive, maybe even die for this zone, because it's going to mean this set if they can just grab this payload. Edgem finds Poison, man. I think this might just button it up.
Looks like great kiting from Neo from Tay. Enlightenment finds Stigma. Stigma dying twice, basically doing nothing. That's so huge. Jalen's going to make it to the point, but everything's basically over at this point. Inara can only live so long once that DR runs out. Had to use it to get in. Neo might try to dash in, but this is all Shadows after this EV goes down.
A lockdown mid-fight performance in the most critical round of this set. This overtime is just going to be a formality. And that just kind of goes to show, for me, what a good team the Shadows can really be.
Yeah.
Because when you get a lead like that, and you know what to do with it, you know how to keep that lead or even extrapolate that lead into something even deadlier, that's where it gets scary and tough to fight back into. It kind of all felt like it balanced on that EV dying there and getting sort of choked out and collapsed on.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was the whole crux of their play, right? They figured, hey, Poison's been doing basically nothing.
It felt so good, dude, because he got far and it felt like nobody saw him.
You've been saying it every round.
You're
just like, finally, and then just went 1800 to 0.
Ice Storm's ready. Here he goes. He didn't go.
Well, he went, and then he went
and
to
he
the
came
grave.
back.
Yeah, came back.
He came back, and Leon just punched him in the back of the head.
That's
just
evidence.
Crushed his skull.
Burst
dude.
damage. Just like Luminary can't save you from that kind of burst.
That was tough to watch for sure. We knew because we had the spectator omnipotence, but we knew that Leon was waiting for Poison when he got back there. Tough shake there for Sanguine. They are completely reverse swept by the Shadows. Big numbers, 6 figures, 4 players breaching that number, almost 5. A great performance, I think, all around, but Stigma, as hard as he popped off the Shadows, were just able to get it done. And on this Willow, man, it's looking pretty dangerous.
Willow's so strong on this map. Her ability to shoot around corners, and Pain is such an excellent player.
Positioned well.
Yeah, positioned well. The triple DPS was just generally positioned well. Once they adapted to Stigma, things got a lot better. I mean, look at that last mid. He was 18-8 going in.
Yep.
Now he's 18-10. He did actually nothing that last mid, and it looked in Shadow's control the whole time.
Nobody did anything.
Yeah, no one did anything. I mean, that was the story for that last fight. And
yeah, they got crushed.
Story ended pretty quick.
Take a look at some replays here of Mr. Grace, a.k.a. Payin. He crushed home a pretty big performance, not only on Ice Mines, but here on Splitstone as well. Looks great on these production graphics. Can't wait to have him back on his main account there. Overpowers, yoinking people in. This was the angle, though. This is what he played to stay out of line of sight of Stigma basically the entire time. And this is where you would, that's the angle you would look to be punished by Eevee, but, you know, A never followed B.
Yeah, I mean, he was never able to get through. They knew that was the only threat, so they played around it really well. You even saw Stigma playing in that quarry to try to find the kills onto Pain, but
target swaps too, man. This guy, in an instant, will just kind of like his context will change, and he will you know, start blasting a different target. In that last replay, you saw it on the Stigma. Stigma's the real threat to him in the sky, so we had to deal with him first. But there was a couple other Fae flights as well, where Pain is just all over the place, swapping targets, keeping people anti-healed, really winning that team fight from above. And while he may not grab all the killing blows, he's certainly pulling a ton of the weight. That was a great set, but we've still got one more for you guys. We're going to throw it to a quick little break, and when we come back, we'll finish out this minor league day.
SteelSeries, the official peripheral provider of the Paladins minor league.